Mate, I have been dying for this for so long. For us to get to this point and see so much quality Call of Duty, I'm just super excited. Incredibly excited for this. We've still got a few bangers left to go. We've got a few games that are just going to kind of sort out who's going to be finishing bottom and who's going to be finishing top, and some bragging rights still to go down, mate. So again, just the endless quality COD. It's every day, mate. It's unreal.
Yes, obviously our first game for this evening is actually going to be down towards the bottom end of the table here between Flux Esports and United Nations. So it's one where the boys of Flux, really, this is kind of their opportunity to kind of get their first notch on the board at the moment, isn't it? They're kind of currently 0-6. United Nations not too much better at currently 1-5. So this is an opportunity for these guys to really try and scrape the bottom of the barrel here for what is going to be the remainder of their elite season.
Yeah, absolutely. This is probably their best opportunity to get to not just to get a win, but to try and get a few maps on the board at all. Obviously, this has been massively difficult for them, and someone's got to finish bottom, and they've still got an opportunity to put United Nations there. I would suggest it's going to be a bit of a battle for them. Presently, they are heavily on the struggle bus in terms of obviously not just wins in terms of games, but just getting maps. And honestly, it's not been an easy ride for them. United Nations, on the other hand, very similar position. They might have the slight edge in terms of they've got slightly better performing players, but this is still going to be, potentially a good battle. We might still see a good quality set of games coming up. But again, I mean, you don't want to finish bottom. You at least want to go out with one win. So we should expect some feisty plays anyway.
Yeah, and speaking of feisty, straight into the action with a nice cheeky Bocage, so we can't really ask much more of this one. And the boys of Flux Esports, they are going to have a couple of engagements, and Bearish Corey, see a player that's come more recently onto the scene to us, having a good couple of games as of recent, and he's doing well at the moment, currently 3 in a row. He is just fighting for the back spawn, though, as Abuser is going to be waiting around the corner. But nice work by Corey. There's another important kill to put him out to 4 in a row. He still needs some help, though, from his teammates, but 5 makes it now glide bomb for him, and he's still waiting. That all-important 6th one to hit fire, not going to come quite through. But the boys of Flux at the moment, they're in position on this hill, Pablo, but we know how difficult Bocage can be to hold a lot of time sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. We know it's a wild map, and it's a wild hard point. And right now, the boys in red are doing really well. It's one thing they have lacked is being able to get into that rhythm of hard point and being able to really rack up the time. You have got to watch out, though. We talked about just before we started the quality that comes out of Abuser and Whale as well. Abuser's on a 9-2 already, and it's that kind of dominance in a Bocage that can really, set the teams apart. So big moment for Flux, and this is a great opportunity in a map that really does lend itself to getting into your opposition's faces.
Yeah, so now Sean just currently waiting patiently, but you can see those blue arrows of United Nations out the back as a couple of engagements ready to go. Corey's able to pick off one. Henry's going to grab one as well, and they're still lurking out the back of the boys of United Nations, still waiting for the time go in their favour. Flux, as Sean is just still waiting patiently, but manages to take Henry down, as potentially he might try and work his way out the back. We've seen it a few times where teams have just pinned teams further back over towards those awkward spawns, and it looks as though that's what Flux Esports are going to try and do, but the blue arrows come flying through. They manage to grab the kills, and with 25 seconds left on the clock, already the battles are going down onto that new rotation. Henry just going for that roaming role for the time being. And now it's just a case of when these boys are going to come through, but Henry is going to take down one before Sean replies with one, and the boys of Flux still pinning them back at the moment, Pablo. This is good play from them to try and get control of Barn early doors here.
Yeah, absolutely. Not just pinning them back, but maintaining a contest inside Lower Granny's Hill, which is vital if they want to stay, within 10 or 20 seconds. Again, nice patient play for United Nations. One of the kind of criticisms leveled at some of the teams in the lower portion of this is that they can be a little impatient and kill feed the hill a little bit, but great patience for them to take a good solid chunk of time. But now we're going to see this incredibly contested hill as we do enter Barn, and we know that the trades go back and forth. So a big opportunity maybe for one player within the team to just start to dominate and take control. Flux Esports, just a slender lead right now, Major. Hopefully they're going to be able to just see this out a little bit further, and they've got a nice opportunity now to get this Barn control.
Yeah, and Abuser again, just playing it patiently. We've seen a lot of teams actually get quite a lot of time on Barn just by playing it patiently, playing corners, not going too over the top with aggression. It looks as though that's exactly what United Nations are going to try and do. They're going to try and get a foothold before they do then try and soak up that remaining scrap time. But 15 seconds is still quite a big margin considering how Bocages normally go. It's sometimes down to the timer, sometimes we get a really slim difference here. And nice work again from Abuser, but he is going to get taken down on that occasion as the rotation towards the new hill will come through. 11 still looking to try and pick off a few remaining players that are still around that existing hill, but they still have Corey on the new hill, and they get the information there. 11, they know that somebody's up top as a glide bomb is just going to rain death from above, so Bearish Corey, good luck with that one, lands right in his back pocket. And the boys now in United Nations. Going to try and work a bit of an upset here because Henry's round the back and he might be able to be a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we talked about the one player they do need to keep quiet is potentially Abuser and Whalers. Well, Abuser on a 16-7, which oddly enough is actually doing worse than he did at the start, but it's still, you know, overtly double positive. Whalers and Jerd, though, you know, form of late not being the best, and in particular Jerd, who's now double negative. One of those players you would look to potentially, you know, go a little bit further and do a little bit better. But this is a great opportunity. The kill feed is still blue, and Flux is still, you would suggest, kind of like keeping up to rhythm with them in terms of kills. But again, that's one thing they are going to need to do. They need the player potentially to take over this game because they are 20 seconds behind, despite having these two players on United Nations not doing so great right now.
Yeah, but Henry now 5 in a row before he finally goes, so he will have a glide bomb ready to use. You can see the strafing run of Abuser. He's still waiting for it, but we know how kind of rogue those strafing runs can be from time to time, as Corey is going to win an initial engagement as that P1 pops. But obviously we know P1 usually consists of about 5 seconds each, and then a lot of rotation battles, as there's a couple of players in Corey and Whalers out towards the back, and Whalers was actually able to win that one. So the players, meanwhile, in the hill, just going to try and do their best to soak up as much time as possible and try and keep an eye on anyone potentially rotating over towards the new hill. But Snake, just locked out in that position, is going to grab one kill and potentially, no, not going to grab a second one, as Abuser is just still lurking to take those players off the hill. But the stack on the hill at the moment for Flux Esports currently working out for them, and it's been a decent P1 by the standards at the moment. They were trailing by 20 seconds, now going to be less than 10. But now the boys of United Nations, this is where they have to be careful because they can't afford to push too much, otherwise risking spawning potentially those players out. But Joe just going to make the big brain play, and out the back he goes.
Yeah, Major. I mean, some of the highlights here, the Flux Esports need really to win some major engagements, and they're not doing so. So you saw the fight go down towards back Tim that they lost, and I mean, don't get me wrong, great plays from Henry and Co to be able to get Tim, but then they lose a fight over towards back tank, and again, it's time after time for Flux Esports. You know, they can stay toe-to-toe with them in terms of just general kills, but these big gunfights that are vital for them to get spawns, they're just not winning. The United Nations taking solid advantage, and they're now again about 20 seconds clear or more. And at the same time, you've got Henry going absolutely wild. You've now got Abuser going back wild, and more importantly, Whalers has started to join the party. And you fear that if Jerd joins in as well, this could be a blowout for Flux Esports.
Yeah, Corey just going to try and play his life here. He's going to get taken down by Whalers, so never know on Bocage. Even though it doesn't seem like a huge kill, it can potentially be the one that gets them over the line, but more engagements. Oh, and Jerd just 180ing onto Sean to take him down. Abuser's going to win a gunfight in the back as well, and already that back control is going to be there for United Nations as they try and get set up and see where the first waves of gunfights come, but that's a lot better there from Snake, just playing it patiently. Obviously, the automaton role, we know how difficult it can be on a Bocage when you've got 3 opposing SMGs just flying around you, but Flux Esports going to take the approach to work their way round the back. Number 5 in Whalers is going to get taken down as well as Flux try and collapse into the hill, and gunfights coming through, but Abuser able to win another couple, and he's going to have another one up in top, but Corey is going to manage to make that trade as the boys in red try and work their way from the back. Now they flip the spawns out. Let's see if we can get some decent time for the boys in red.
Yeah, huge play by 11 at the back towards Whalers. He was able to get that kill. It gives them the spawns, and now this gives them an opportunity, you know, if they're not going to be able to get a huge amount of time, but at least contest with United Nations so they don't start running away. And now they really need to start thinking about where they planning to go next, because right now they are still tied up in lower grannies, while United Nations are afforded the opportunity to just swan around barn like they've got no care in the world. And it's you know, this moment where you start to feel for Flux Esports' ability to rotate effectively and commit to the next hill effectively, because look at that setup from the arrows, blue arrows. They have got a dominant moment. Whalers is going to drop on. Unfortunately, it's not going to connect because they're already slaying out, and you can see those red skulls just start to pepper the map, and that is definitely a worrying sign for Flux Esports. But there is only 8 seconds in it, and of course the case of the caster major, as soon as I say that, they get barn control.
I was surprised that Whalers actually invested that, because they did have a bit more presence over towards that barn side. We tend to see a lot of people actually save that glide bomb for the next time, but Whalers nonetheless is going to throw it out there, and Snake and Sean going to combine for 2. So now an opportunity for those red arrows once again to try and push their way in towards their hill. Just playing it carefully in the corner, but good reads there from the guys in red. Once more is 11 still hunting, still looking for more kills at the moment. Currently the best performing on the side of Flux, you would say, and Snake has completely come back into this game. He was almost borderline double negative, I think, but Luke is now working his way to potentially even, and he does manage to do it now. So the boys of United Nations got to be careful, because Spares Corey's out the back and he's just killing everything in sight at the moment. 4 in a row now for him, 1 away from the glide bomb, and there it is with the head of Henry, drops him, and now the boys in blue Got to be careful though, because the new hill has popped, but they still don't have that back control. The boys in Flux pointing out the back.
Yeah, and a really interesting play by Jed there. He actually just walks off the hill, looking for kills over towards that kind of back alley area, but he gets tied up in the end. And this is the conversation we had earlier on, where we talked about how important it was for Flux to just be able to nab a few big kills. And they've done it now the last couple of hills, but they need to kill that player. Number 5 there is going to be Whalers, who's just soaking up time for free right now, despite Flux Esports having those spawns and potentially having that mid-map control. So another big fight about to go down. It is going to be Jed. He manages to get the bullet penetration and get the kill, and again Sean's just going to be already prepping. This is what we talked about, a little bit of preparation, get your rotations, start to get the rhythm of the game, and another big fight about to go down. But it is going to be number 1 and Sean just towards back tin, so a big opportunity, but they get the spawn. So this next fight is all important if you are Flux Esports, and if they can do this, this could be huge.
Feels so odd, doesn't it, on Bocage? We talk about, right, the guys are getting ready for P2 and P1 hasn't even popped yet. It's just kind of a norm now with whenever we see a Bocage. But the boys of United Nations, they are going to heavily stack that backside over towards tin while the gunfights go down. But now we're getting towards the business end now, as there's only 47 seconds left on the game clock here and 40 seconds remaining on P1. So we'll see who can manage to grab any more time on this one, because potentially it could be game-changing here as United Nations going to get on the time, and Henry flies straight around the corner and absolutely beams Sean. Good work there from him as he tries to get locked into position, but the boys now in blue, they now see the lead change go in their favour. Now Flux got to be careful here. They're going to have to try and work a break here, but the flank coming through from Jerd. Big brain plays from him to take down one and potentially disrupt some time. But this has been a good P1 from United Nations, Pablo, and now the boys of Flux, they got to be careful because they don't have the rotation to the next hill either.
Yeah, this is one of the facets of Bocage you don't see very often. So when you get a team on P1, they're able to get a team wipe very early into the hill. You're going to push straight up across that top field so that you can get eyes along back grannies and eyes along the back alley. And that's going to afford you to get a second team wipe. And you're potentially going to be able to steal a good chunk of 40 seconds, that P1. You don't see it very often because it's reasonably difficult to do. But again, if you want to start winning this kind of Bocage, you need to start thinking about P2 while you're at the end of P5. The glides just start raining down, as all that kill work that was done earlier in the game just starts to pay dividends for United Nations.
Yeah, the Bocage carnage is definitely ensuing now, as Henry's going to grab one, and the kill feed just back and forth at the moment, but number 7 in Henry will get taken down. So Flux, they are going to breathe a sigh of relief and get some bodies on the hill. They need to try and be careful though, because they're running out of game time. They will finally send someone potentially, as Jerd grabs a double with the glide bomb, but 11, big kill, needs another one onto Henry, but he's not going to get it. So United Nations, are they going to play the game clock, or are they just going to opt to get on the hill? Because Flux are now back on it, and Whalers loses a gunfight. So Bearish Corey's going to soak up the remaining time, and it is going to put them back out in the lead. So 13 seconds now. Oh my goodness, Flux, they're just banking on potentially rotating early here, because now they don't have the lead. I believe it was 11 maybe got off the hill, but now the carnage, where is it going to pivot to? 11 inside the hill. The contest comes through. They need to at least kill the man off the hill, because there's only 7.5 seconds left. The boys of United Nations, it looks as though they're going to try and bank on some potential contest time here. Players throwing themselves at the moment. Snake going to be in, Sean going to come through as well, but the red break comes through, but no, Whalers is going to reply with one, and so too will Snake. So now with only 7 seconds remaining between these two in terms of score, and 5 seconds remaining on the clock, Pablo, this is becoming an absolute bloodbath.
This is insane, and look how close the score is. They can't allow that time to go down. The contest goes back in, but it is going to be United Nations who win by a hair's breadth in this kind of losers battle. 225 to 223, and Bocage Major just throws up insanity one more time.
Oh man, I think if Flux on that P2, if they kept, I believe it was 11, someone came off that hill for a couple of seconds, that potentially would have put the game at a draw, which is a weird thing to say on the hard point, but we've seen a lot of it on Bocage, and we saw another bit of carnage there. But the boys in United Nations, obviously, only one win to their name at the moment. You say this is kind of fighting for those remaining bottom spaces, but the boys of Flux might be kicking themselves a little bit after that one.
Yeah, probably their first and greatest opportunity to really do some damage and get a hardpoint win, because right now they are 0-6 on hardpoints, and you know that's not a position you want to be in at this kind of level, and that was a superb opportunity for them to do it. Yeah. But we've seen it before. You know, these guys play COD, they aren't mathematicians, and unfortunately it is going to be Corey potentially who jumps off and could potentially have saved them. And it was such a battle towards the end of Grannies as well. You don't know which way it's going to go. Bocage has done this so many times. Half failure at the best of times, but man, look at a boozer's stats. 40 and 27 and Major, non-traded kills at 30. That is wild.
Yeah, the boys of United Nations definitely owe him a pint after that one. 40 and 27, really good map there from Abuser. Judd, he did struggle towards that beginning part of the game, and so too did Snake, but both players slowly coming back towards pretty much even. Snake actually just grabbing a positive KD in that one, but the boys of United Nations now 1-0 up in the best of 5, and we're going from one extreme to the other, Pablo. We're going from Bocage straight into Desert Siege Search. So we're going from absolute madness to a much more structured approach, and obviously those snipers that we tend to see.
Yeah, and I think this is potentially a United Nations choice. I think if you're going to say one positive for Flux, it is that they have managed to win a couple of Bale and S&Ds where they do look quite tasty. Snake in particular going well in week 1. He had a positive KD across search. So one probably banana skin that United Nations are trying to avoid. But Desert Siege, we don't see it that often now. It was obviously very popular in the first handful of cups as people started to get used to it and it rotated in as an S&D and then rotated out as a hard point. But this is going to be really interesting. Hopefully, we're going to see some, not final day. Hopefully, we're going to see some final day world star performances on the sniper.
Yeah, and just a quick update as well, guys. There is currently some other games going on in the COD Challengers YouTube, so youtube.com/COD Challengers. That is TMT versus the Originals, and an important game for the Originals, Pablo. They need to win their one at least. But they have dropped map number 1. They've actually managed to lose that one. TMT take it 250 to 175. So they're going to have to hit a quick regain button as well from those boys.
Yeah, and they couldn't really ask for a worse game. They're probably very evenly matched, and it's going to be an absolute struggle. And TMT, those guys like the Chaxton that are going to want to prove a point. And if there is one player from that side I'd like to talk about, it would be Chaxton. That he has slowly, incrementally over time, just got better and better during Vanguard. Yeah. And right now, it's a player you probably wouldn't want to face when you definitely need to win. So a big game for the Originals. They do need to hit the reset button, but they can really throw the cat among the pigeons this evening.
And looks like we are going to be dipping straight back into everyone's favourite, unless you are terrible with a sniper, which is more likely my case. So the boys of Flux going to look to try and tie up this series with a Desert Siege Search and Destroy. And we flag it up, Pablo, obviously a much more open map, sniper lanes, really, really big influences in this one, especially if you've got that man. I mean, we see it all the time with Young Galactics and Lucky, don't we, all the time. If you've got that one man who can rock the sniper and pick for first bloods, it can be really, really pivotal in some of these rounds.
Yeah, and again, this is a conversation that you could have about first bloods and the lack thereof from both teams. So this is a good opportunity for those guys to potentially start to just rack up a few first bloods and see how, this is going to be important in terms of VOD for these teams. They can get first bloods and then see how they control the bomb sites. And again, it's an unusual map where you've got these quite extreme bomb sites with an enormous amount of buildings in the middle that don't regularly get used. So it is about the lanes at the end of the day and that coverage across A and B sites. So we could see some incredible performances coming out that we haven't seen previously. So a good opportunity again, maybe for Flux, who their most successful map rounds so far have been an S&D, albeit they're still on a negative KD. So maybe potentially this is going to bump them up, and we could see a good series start to come out.
Yeah, and we've seen a slight change in strategies as well, with that silent plant now being a factor in the games. Obviously, a huge thing on Desert Siege, on that B site, I believe, the one just under the arches, players would literally sit in the middle building, wait until they hear the person planting the bomb, and usually it would be a free pick unless somebody was watching over the top of them. So now we've got that silent plant addition added to the game. The strategies and the positioning of players to keep an eye on the bomb site, especially if they're defending or they've got the bomb down and then they're trying to play for just waiting for that person to try and make the right time to strike and obviously get them off the bomb. It's going to be interesting to see how teams try and switch it up, because that positioning now is going to be all important, considering the guys can't hear when the guy's physically on the bomb defusing it.
Yeah, and this is exactly why having an incredibly competent sniper or an incredibly competent AR comes into focus.
Yep.
And again, you would potentially argue that the two teams at the bottom were the ones who would be struggling against world star snipers like Super or like Harry and players like that. Lucky again. So this is their moment now to maybe just pick that up and just, have a reset and have a rethink going into, the next season as such, and just use this opportunity just to try some strategies out. But more than anything else, just get a win on the board. And obviously, we're particularly looking at Flux in that sense, as United Nations did manage to get a game already. So a good opportunity for them just to prove that they as much as these two teams are at the bottom, that not necessarily being their kind of, might not be their best performances so far. But again, they no one wants to finish last, do they? So good opportunity right now for Flux again to get on the board.
Yeah, and obviously we know kind of like Luke's background, he does a lot of chows, a lot of search and destroys. To be fair, a lot of these players kind of do. So you're looking at Flux, especially. We talk about it all the time. If you can't win that first hard point, you're always looking towards that search and destroy to tie it up and try and make a series of it. And we know the boys of Flux are very, very good at search and destroy. When it comes to it, they can pinch maps, they can do it. So United Nations, they can't afford to take their foot off the gas in this one, because Flux, to be fair, it wouldn't surprise me if they come out with some really odd spots, some weird angles that we don't tend to see, which you obviously discover when you're playing chows on the daily, when you're streaming and you're finding other things out from other people. So they're definitely going to have to keep their foot planted here, United Nations. They can't push over the boys of Flux in search.
Yeah, and another thing, just a positive to take for Flux, is that when they have lost the maps, in general, they've been reasonably close. They tend to push to round 10s and round 11s against the better team, so it's a great opportunity to really take this up to United Nations and get in the face in that sense. But yeah, I mean, Flux, I honestly feel for them in a way, because they've been long regarded as a quality S&D side. But the big problem is, if they don't win this map, they go into probably their weakest game mode, which is control, where they haven't taken a map, and against a team, I think, who have taken a handful of control games. So this is a big moment for Flux, really, in terms of how they see the remainder of this elite quals.
Yeah, and it looks as though we are going to finally jump into our Desert Siege. But yeah, a quick note on that control, Pablo. A lot of teams now at the moment do definitely seem to be getting a lot more structure. I mean, at the moment, especially when we casted the Tuscan control at the weekend, it was very much a case of that defensive side is definitely more favourable. But we are starting to see some teams start to mix things up and obviously go for that triple hit over towards B and send a lot of bodies over there. So there's a lot of variety in control. It's just a case of whether teams or not can kind of adapt. Who can adapt quickest? Some teams have obviously got that on lockdown a little bit sooner than others, but you would expect at this level of Call of Duty, other teams would also be straight back in with some new ideas and strats as well.
Yeah, and I think that's going to evolve pretty quickly. I think you're going to see that happen over the next course of the next week, as we see some interesting strats in terms of attacking, because obviously the defensive side, I mean, teams have got it shored up, so this is a big opportunity. Unfortunately, we're going to see two players drop for Flux, as 11 and Sean do fall to Henry and Whalers, but bite straight back, Major, with Snake and Bearish Corey getting on. So as we get into the final 25 seconds of this, it's going to be a 2v2.
Oh man, when you hear the crack of the sniper and then you see a first blood, you're just so happy. You're like, yes, okay, we've at least got one on the map. So Henry's going to grab a second as well, and Corey going to be the last man up at the moment. So he does make it a 1 versus 1, but now got to defend that bomb. He's going to fly around the corner. You don't think he's going to have enough time? He's going to go for the chow onto Henry. He's going to take him down, and it will be a Flux Esports win for that first opening round. So it looked a bit bleak off the start, Pablo, but they managed to hit the regain, and Corey there with a big moment.
And you called it at the start, you know, these do play an awful lot of S&D, and Flux Esports as a team. Snake prides himself on being a very good S&D player, so you would expect this to be a challenging game for United Nations, and they prove it with some really big kills. And not only that, they answered straight back, clap back with 2 big kills as well to take it to the 2v2. So hats off to Flux, man. This has got to be a good confidence builder, but they do need to start piling on the pressure and start to build on these rounds.
Yeah, and already, even in the early stages now, Bearish Corey might potentially be thinking about playing just a little bit more slowly. Saying that, we have been made to eat our words multiple times, as again stuns and nades just going to be exchanged at the moment. Corey just absolutely yeeting one straight up in the air, but Abuse just going to get the first blood onto 11. So again, another position where Flux, they are currently now down a man. Bomb will go down as well over towards A, and Corey got to be careful to keep his head down, but he's going to do a hell of a lot of work here to try and keep alive in this one, because it is now 1 versus 4. And he's still got to play for those streaks here, Pablo. So now it's a question of, does he run and hide, or does he try and pick one off at a time?
Yeah, maybe get a pick and then maybe go and hide, because honestly, a 1v4 is going to be really difficult, and you're going to potentially get tagged up. So he's on foot now, and he really does need to think about potentially protecting that opportunity to get the glide. So a pick and hide might be an opportunity he finally gets dealt with, which was always on the cards. And we talk about this time and time again. I know we like to see the snipers, because we spent a year almost without snipers in the previous Call of Duty. But the other big facet of Vanguard is it's so difficult to get clutches, whether it be a 1v2, and in particular across these large geographical maps, when you've got Desert Siege and Berlin, which are quite huge, and you can garner quite a lot of information. So again, it's going to be tied up, and I expect this potentially to go all the way, because United Nations Major are not going to be any slouches in the S&D department.
Yeah, and we are going to look as though we're going to stick on board with Henry right off the rip. Good start from him with the sniper, as he still goes hunting for more, and you can just see a glimpse of an X-ray, and a glimpse of a head as well, and the glint as well, Whalers. Oh, he saw that, and he wanted nothing more to do with that, but Sean's going to take him down regardless. 11 still on this outer lane. Still hunting for a potential pick, but Flux a lot better this round. Are going to grab the first blood. 11 is working his way up, but he's going to get caught out by Abuser, and now stuck in a 3 versus 3 now are Flux. Going to have to look to try and get the bomb down, but Judd's going to manage to pick off Sean as well. But now 2 versus 2, and the boys of Flux going to have to be careful now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong, that was a beautiful start to the game for them where they're able to push that player out with that suppressive, feature of the sniper and get him. But again, we see this clap straight back and United Nations take their turn to tie this up to a 2 versus 2. Big opportunity, though, for United Nations. We're going to be just staying on board with Henry. It does look like he's picked up a different gun, thankfully. Abuser just going to peek around the back, and that's going to be a pretty. Oh, he's on the chase. This is my life in COD right now. He's on the chase, playing nearly gets away. That's entirely how I spend my days on Call of Duty. Is just chasing people. Abuser gets the kill on Snake though, and now it's going to be Bearish Corey all on his own. So almost a mirror image of the previous round, Major, as he looks to get bombed down.
Yeah, he will manage
44
to do it.
seconds.
He will manage to do it, Corey. He's got to be careful though. Oh, but he manages to take down Abuser. Now he just needs to try and get away with his life here. So 1 versus 1 up against Henry. 36 seconds. Going to be on the clock here. Oh, and on the top rope is going to be Henry. He's going to manage to grab the kill. So good positioning there by Henry, just playing it patiently. And Corey, not really much he could do in that situation. Pabs, obviously, he was kind of in that sticky situation in between the trains, and there wasn't really a huge place he could exactly run to or retreat to.
Yeah, it's very tricky. An MP40 player used to being very aggressive, then has to all of a sudden play it kind of like a macro speed, and he's just, he's not going to position himself correctly, and then you've got Henry there straight away on top of the train in a perfect position. So it is going to be unfortunate for Flux's United Nations are going to take an early lead, but again, we are still early days. But one thing we talk about again across these kind of games is when one player just starts to dominate, and already we can see Henry on the 5-1. But Bearish Corey, no slouch on 5-2 himself, but unfortunately, probably not the best position for him to be in that final clutch. And we're going to see, did he get a hit marker then, Major?
Yeah, I think Henry just left maybe like what remains of the shell of the bullet in the side of someone's head, so they're going to have to try and pick that one out as they try and work their way on this defensive side. So Henry going to be a little bit miffed that he didn't manage to grab the first blood there. Oh, but Snake, this is the kind of spot we're talking about, Pabs. They are going to manage to get eyes on the man on the bomb, and they know Wailers is on this outer lane. As the bomb does go down, Snake's going to try and get a couple of bullets in, but there's a few more players than he anticipated, so he's going to go down. Sean's going to get shot in the back as well, so now 3 versus 2 in favour of United Nations. Oh, 11, he's got to be careful, because if Wailers hits this side quickly and turns to his left, he's right there. Oh, is he going to spot him? I think he knows he's there roughly. He is still hunting for him. Oh my goodness, he's just going to completely 180 the second he spots him. But United Nations, they do finally get the kill, and they notch another round on the board. Pablo, 3-1, 2-round cushion now.
Yeah, and it looked like from the start there, as much as it was a kind of a sneaky position from Snake to take up, he left himself incredibly exposed. And then we talk about the kind of decision-making that can win and lose your rounds. He goes to take a pick on the bomb planter, but there are 3 people around him. And, it's an unfortunate position to be in. But again, it is quite exposed, and that's going to allow United Nations not just to get 1 kill, but then potentially to get 2 as players look to trade in support of their in-game leader. Snake, again, we've talked about the experience in S&D. He's 1-4 right now, and 11 on an 0-4, and you just feel if those guys could just start to contribute a little bit more, maybe just play a little bit more cautiously, then you would potentially see Flux just get it into the game. But at the minute, it is advantage United Nations, and this is a worrying sign as we head potentially into Flux's weakest game.
Oh man. Every time you hear the crack of the sniper, I don't know what it is with COD, the noise is just always on par. It's the same with the headshot noise, isn't it? As soon as you hear that ping, it's just so satisfying. But yeah. Abuser, first blood. Sean is going to reply with 1. 3 versus 3 again. Now with 50 seconds left on the clock, Boys of Flux going to have to be quick. 11 is still lurking up here, but it looks as though his woes might continue. Oh no, he is just going to manage to get out as he's got a teammate. Never mind, Jerd is going to manage to make him pay. And it is now 2 versus 3. Sean does have the bomb, but with 30 seconds left on the clock, they're going to do a good job to keep him alive as Snake is going to manage to grab the kill onto Jerd. Sean, looks as though these boys are going to try and wrap this bomb. Probably the smart move here if they can get the timing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, hopefully it's going to be United Nations who decide to just sit back and wait for the bomb plant. And it's a big opportunity for Flux to finally get one on the board, but there's still a long way to go. And again, Jed rolling back the years with some big kills. Abuser, though, there's the worrying sign. He's 6-3 and he starts to take over. That's a big kill for Flux Esports, though, as they're able to get another one on the board. And, 1 round difference is a completely different, scenario in terms of just psychology and confidence than those 2 rounds. Because if they lose that and go and it's a 4-1 deficit, that is going to be a body blow right there to Flux. But a great performance. And again, we expect a team of this caliber at this kind of level to be able to regain, reset, and be able to have the discipline to just play every round as it comes. But really, sometimes it can be vital. You start to sigh and you change your body position. But this is going to give them that opportunity to just sit a bit more forward and potentially just take this to United Nations.
Yeah, so into round 6 we go, but a first blood from Jerd is going to get traded out by Sean almost instantly, and it's absolute carnage on Desert Siege, which we're not really used to seeing, so a much quicker pace round as Snake is going to grab one, and so too will 11, so he's finally off the donut. Onto the breadstick he will go, and now Abuser, last man up here. Needs to try and work a 1 versus 3. He's just going to play this out a lane and potentially work some form of information, and oh, look at that. Nice pretty sniper to go with it as well, so see if he can manage to rip a head off. Oh, he's been spotted. He's getting tagged up as well as the Kobe's potentially going to land right next to him. Just going to dip out for the time being. Still hunting for one potential head here, but with 40 seconds left on the clock. He doesn't have the bomb either, so it's going to be a difficult position for him now, Pablo. It looks as though he's going to have to get quite a few picks in quick succession if this round's going to look good for him.
Yeah, and it's not the smallest map to try and get 3 picks in 35 seconds. And he's so close again, but why has there been a perk released for Thick Skulls? Because right now Flux Esports have rode that twice. We've got 2 definitely impaired players right there, bullets in skull, but unfortunately again we talk about how difficult it is to get those 1v3, 1v2 clutches, and in particular on these kind of maps. But again, proof in the pudding, and it's going to be Flux Esports who are on the ascendancy, and they've brought it back to 3-all, Major.
And I don't know about you, Pabs, but you know what we had at the weekend? The waft of Game 11. Waft of Game 11, round 11, just slowly, a little smidgen of a glimpse of round 11 that is slowly starting to seep into this one now. So Sean, there's going to be a man literally right round the corner. He's going to fly straight out to Jerd, and talk about patience there from Jerd. Pops his head up literally at the perfect time, and Abuse is going to grab one as well. So this round already starting to get a little bit out of hand here for Flux. They look to try and throw some more players, and holy aggression there. Corey is now the last man up after those blue arrows just absolutely flew at Snake to take him down, and now he's going to need a 1 versus 4.
And he manages to get one. He picks off Jerd, but unfortunately he's probably in one of the least favourable places to be when you're in this position of having 3 players who know exactly where you are, and they're just going to be waiting. That's a great pick from Bearish, though, as he's able to drop Whalers and now brings himself to a 1v2 and maybe just put a little bit of doubt in the mind of the players that were looking to push him. You can see that spread already. Big map goes on despite the block by player request. Let's go with the OBS. And but you can see that spread right there from those 2 players. It's they're going to gather a lot of information. This is also another feature for Vanguard that we see on these large maps. But with 23 seconds to go, Major Bearish Corey is just going to be looking to maybe get 1 pick and extend that streak out in some way.
I'll tell you
that's
what.
A pick!
He's only one away. He's only one away from a 1v4. The last man in Henry, though, is just right behind him, and I think he's going to spot him any second. He bombs his head up and just rips it clean off there. So the boys of Flux, and especially Mr. Corey there, so close to getting the 1v4, but United Nations steady the ship a little bit, Pablo. An important round just to go back in the lead. Only by 1, but it's an important one nonetheless.
Finally see a sniper bullet that makes its mark and gets right the way through and drops a player. But unfortunately for Flux Esports, it's going to be a player who was potentially about to not just get that 1v4, but potentially about to get a glide. So huge plays right there. Flux really just need a little regain. That'll be awesome. We get the replay Abuser with the big plays there. It took me by surprise then. Right now it is going to be 4v4, Major, and we do head into the 8th round. And a big moment for Flux.
Yeah, and Sport there with a little bit of magic. Thank you, Mr. Sport. You gotta love it. And this is why ClutchGG. If you don't know where you're going to watch your Call of Duty action, this is where you need to be. So
top tier production.
Oh mate, you can't beat it. You cannot beat it. So Sean is going to manage to grab a first blood that round, as we are just now back in towards the round. I got a little bit vexed there for a while. I was like, is it a replay? Is it the game? But we're back now. As 11 is going to now stick this bomb.
No, he diffused it on the slide. It was a ninja.
The replays completely threw me off. I thought he was planting. How has he got away with that one? I was seeing all the players on the map and I was like, surely not. This isn't a defuse.
He's 100% just got next to the bomb when they've planted, and everyone's split up to be like, we'll catch them out. And 11's like, you'll never catch me. I'm 2 and 6, but I am a ninja. And he manages to get it. Huge plays. I mean, what a play to bring them back to 4-all. I'm sure he's chuckling to himself right now. And United Nations probably having a heated debate as to how that happened. But it's going to be Sean with bomb, Major. And we're potentially, you got the whiff. The window was opened and we saw the smoke come in. And it smells like a round 11.
Yeah, and Henry, first blood. There you go. Back it up with the sniper. will manage to take down Snake on that occasion, and a gunfight comes through for Corey. And again, another important one for Corey. He's doing really well at the moment for the side of Flux. But unfortunately, Jerd is going to take down Sean, and it leaves 11. And bearish Corey
Ooh.
now going to be Corey. He managed to get 3 last time, but he's not even going to work his way through 1, as Jerd is now going to stick this defuse. United Nations going to push that lead out once again, and not a ninja defuse on this occasion. A pretty straightforward one there.
Yeah, and you got to think, I was hoping maybe, give Corey another chance. He's going to get that 1v4, but, it plays to type. And again, it proves how difficult it is in that position. Obviously, he is overly exposed and he's going to get absolutely bodied over towards that truck. And it's a pretty simple defuse. But 5-4 again, you've got to discuss the Flux have got a really good opportunity, but not just that, they're playing better than they have played previously. So some good rounds under the belt, and obviously Corey doing really well. But right now, you've got to look to your in-game leader in Snake, and potentially that player on 2 and 7 right now, just to get a couple of picks. If they get picks, this could be a good round for them.
Yeah, so we'll see. 11, if he's still rocking the sniper, actually, because he did get a couple of picks. Oh, there you go, Henry's actually going to win the battle of that one. Snake will manage to grab one back onto Whalers again, so we're in towards that 3 versus 3 situation, and Joda's just going to stick this bomb over towards A. We haven't seen a lot of action over towards the A site in terms of plants, and down in the bushes, Sean's going to spot Abuser, and he manages to take him down, so now 2 versus 3. And Jerd just got an eye there on Corey, up in towards the top side. Bomb is still down, though. Going to look to try and potentially smoke his way out of this situation. Jerd, Henry's going to spot him. Oh, he's not going to manage to connect the bullet, though. So Jerd now, last man up. Can King Jerd works some magic, takes down Sean. Now he's going to look for the second, but Corey's going to be there for the trade. And the boys of Flux, they get the defuse, Pablo, and the waft came through, and it was the right one. It's now going to round 11.
Absolutely, from the outset, this stunk of around 11, and it's been awesome so far. And you've really got to look to bearish Corey getting these big kills. I know a couple of times he has been exposed, but it's been in 1v3, 1v4 situations. And right now, he's dragged his team, not quite single-handedly, but almost into this round 11. So a good opportunity for Get One on the board. And they really do need this, because they do not want to be heading into any kind of control 2-0 down.
Yeah, and big round here between these two, and also it was a big map from the originals. They actually managed to beat TMT 6-3, so that series, that all-important series, is now tied up. And now towards round 11 we go, and Henry, he's been a thorn in the side of Flux all map long with this sniper as he looks to try and hunt for another important first blood. Jerd keeping an eye over the bomb. And it looks as though it's going to be a little bit of a split approach here. Abuser. Right time, 11's going to chal out. Oh no, 11, that might have been only his 3rd, but that might have been his most important kill so far.
Oh, bearish Corey as well to get them to a 4v2. This could be a monumental moment in this series. It could change the not ultimately the fate, but in terms of where they finish, they don't want to finish last. And I know for a fact that these guys don't feel like they've deserved to finish last. And now Henry is going to be in a 1v4. That is a very difficult situation. And again, we talk about the efficiency, but Flux Esports is going to get an S&D round on the board. And more importantly, Major, they're going to tie the series up and still give them that opportunity to get a game under their belt.
Yeah, so they do exactly what we flagged up that they needed to do. The boys of United Nations aren't going to do enough to get that one over the line. Flux Esports going to tie up the series, but you flagged him up, Pablo. Bearish Corey, really good search and destroy again from him in 11. A couple of kills in that final round, and arguably his 2 biggest in the entire map there to help his boys over the line.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about this time and time again. You can do it in Hardpoint, you can do it in S&D, not necessarily in control, but you can definitely do it in S&D, which is get big kills and still go negative. If you're getting those first bloods in particular, they're massively important in order to get that map control and get bomb control. But it's just as important to get those last kills, because that's going to win you the round. So as obvious as it sounds, you can still go negative and have a massive impact in the game. And you've just seen it there. 11 pops up at the end and gets and a kill that you just absolutely look like he shouldn't get. But bearish Corey, again, one of our, we've pointed them out before, Major, one of our favorite players to watch, and a really good up and comer who potentially, could go, not all the way, but obviously right now on the struggle bus with his team. But again, this is a great opportunity for Flux Esports to do something, memorable in this that they haven't done so far.
Yeah, so just confirmation coming through there. So 6-5 to the boys of Flux. They tie it 1 up, and almost looking forward into the next game, Pablo. This is the beauty of finally having our 3rd game mode, isn't it? Now we've kind of got one team takes a respawn, one team takes a search. Now you look to potentially what could be the swing round here in map number 3 on Tuscan Control. We know how messy this one can be, and we now know that the boys of Flux are going to feel a little bit more confident. We've had 2 incredibly close games in 225 to 223 on the hard point. We've now had a 6-5. So when we go into a Tuscan Control where we know so many of them end 3-2, It
Yeah.
wouldn't surprise me again if we get one that comes right down to the wire. And obviously, we saw it the other day with the Spanish lads in Galactics versus Sucre, where they were playing literally for kills at the end to try and get that defensive side. So it wouldn't
Yeah.
surprise me if we're going to have another map here of the finest of margins between these two again.
Yeah, you've just got to hope that the players involved have got that little bit of information and the little bit of discipline that it requires. Obviously, we saw it out of the Spanish lads and we saw it out of Moneyform, where when they got to the end of that round and they knew they needed the extra lives in order to get the defensive side,
Yeah,
they were played so cautiously and so smartly. Whether you're going to get this kind of play out of these two teams right now, because they can often be drawn into kind of overtly aggressive moments, we'll have to wait and see. Flux potentially needing defensive side to start would probably be a benefit to the game overall, which will give them that advantage, and then we might actually get to see that game 4. I fear that if United Nations get the defensive side, this could be hugely problematic for the boys from Flux. But I mean, either way, both teams should be immensely proud of kind of getting to this stage and being involved, and they're going to be able to take away a
yeah.
great deal of information from this, and the guys in the background have been providing VODs as well. So again, come and watch ClutchGG, because everything you could possibly need is here. But yeah, this is a good opportunity though. This Tuscan control is a difficult one. If they get that defensive side first, in particular Flux Esports, this could be we could actually see a game 4.
Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't know, the way the format works in this elite is we have 8 teams in total in the group. The top 4 go through to the bracket play, where they play for that $50,000 prize pool, and obviously the bottom 4, they don't go through to the bracket, and they get relegated, so to speak. So they then have to re-qualify for the next
Yeah.
elite challenges. And currently, as it stands, we've got Sucre's Bakery, Young Galactics, and Revenge Tour. They are all currently already qualified, and TMT, United Nations, and Flux, they are all currently relegated. Obviously, they're currently playing for additional pro points, additional money. So obviously the ranking's still very important for a lot of these teams, just to earn a little bit more cheddar, a little bit more pro points for seedings going into other
Yeah.
tournaments. And obviously the boys of Moneyform and Originals, those are the two at the moment that are kind of scrapping it out, because on a quick tangent to look at those two teams. So between those two, if Moneyform don't get top 4, they're probably looking at that and thinking that's underperforming in terms of our standards.
Honestly, I think the most important, the team that's going to value this the most is Revenge Tour. I think obviously Originals want to get through and Moneyform want to get through, but Revenge Tour have got as much as anything. They want to see Moneyform out, because as much as their particular performances haven't been kind of the standard that you would expect, when they go into that, if they do get through, Revenge Tour are not going to want to play a Steve Vortex team deep into a bracket like that.
Yeah,
It's a different beast. He's a different animal entirely. So again, it's really, I mean, an opportunity for Revenge Tour more than anything else to potentially see a slightly weaker team into the bracket. So that's going to be a huge game, and with the Originals now tying the series up, you would almost hope that they're able to then go on and take that round, just to put that additional pressure into that game that between the Revenge Tour and between Moneyform. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to play for right there, and if you're Revenge Tour, you want to see that game out. You want to do everything you can to potentially force Moneyform into that bottom 4.
yeah, and obviously the Originals, they only qualify if they win and Moneyform lose. So currently, as it
Yeah.
stands, Moneyform are 4-2, 4 wins, 2 losses, and then Originals currently sat at 3-3. So it's going to have to be kind of have your cake and eat it for these boys of the Originals
Yeah.
to try and work their way in. But regardless of what we've seen so far in elites, and obviously the Challengers Cup as well, Pablo, because we've just finished Challengers Cup number 5, and shock
Yeah.
horror, it was the boys of Young Galactics who came through and won it. Obviously, the second game this evening is going to be a clash of some of those incredible series that we saw at the weekend in Young Galactics and Sucre's Bakery. So them two obviously fighting for that top seed later this evening. So every single game, it feels as though we say it time after time, every single game at the moment really does matter for every team.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, obviously we're in a game now where no one wants to finish last. No one wants that kind of performance. And then obviously at the very other end of the spectrum, you've got Spanish bragging rights. You've got the team that gets the best seed, the team ultimately that gets the best result. So again, both teams going to want to go hard, just if anything for that seed placement. But right in the middle, we have obviously got the most interesting dilemma there. And I would suggest Originals, if they go on to win, that puts all the pressure on Moneyform.
Yeah,
Revenge Tour again with if you would argue again that kind of incentive to do well against Moneyform. I mean, don't get me wrong, they might not. They might just be like, we'll take our chances next week and see who we get. But again, if they've got any sense, they'll look to kind of put Moneyform out and potentially have a slightly easier opportunity going into the next game. No offense to the Originals, it's just in terms of placement. But yeah, it's been wild so far, and again, mixed in with those cups, and we get to see kind of different strategies and different opportunities that players take, dependent how important they take it. I mean, the weekend was wild. Wild, we probably saw some of the best performances and the best kind of sets of matches. One game only going one game not going 3-2 was the Originals against the Young Galactics. Every other game was an absolute banger, and we both ended up with a sore throat at the end of the day. So these guys are just absolutely playing at their peak. They're pushing it. It's a joy to watch at times.
Yeah, and obviously coming back onto this series now with United Nations. I don't want to be too controversial, but when you look at the United Nations roster, could you argue that they're potentially going to be a bit upset with the way this one has gone? Because obviously they've got a player in the prestige of Jerd on this team, and obviously Henry, Whalers, and Abuser. I mean, Whalers and Abuser, from what we've seen so far of them, anyways, they've been pretty much lights out all year. Obviously, Jerd in respawns, we flagged up. He struggled a little bit, which is quite surprising by his standards. But for them to finish potentially second from bottom, when you look at the ability on this roster, it's quite surprising.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about stock value as such for a player with the kind of history that they've got, but Whalers and Jade are two players you would expect to be absolute monsters on the map. And again, this could be down to the game. Jade maybe not feeling Vanguard at all, maybe just kind of feeling himself back into Call of Duty. Whalers, on the other hand, has been absolutely brilliant. He's got the most positive KD out of the four players, very closely followed by Abuser, and Whalers again with good pedigree playing with the guys. I think he played with Team Heretics as well. So I don't know, just a weird one for me. But Jade in particular, probably disappointed in his own performance. But again, you just don't know where he is in terms of his headspace. He might just be trying to feel himself back into COD. But right now, Flux Esports versus United Nations, and it's all tied up in terms of kills. And we already see that 8-point taken over. So Flux already trying to get aggressive. But again, we've seen it time and time again how difficult this B zone on Tuscan is to get. It's insane. It's almost criminal how hard it is.
Yeah, and with number 8 Snake out the back, this is going to be really, really difficult for the boys of United Nations, because they've just got to try and at least grab a couple of kills, but then also run all the way over towards the site. You can see Whalers is going to try and edge his way round the back here, but you can see Sean, he might make the read onto him here. Can Whalers potentially get some good timing here onto Sean? Meanwhile, though, the other remaining players are just waiting to pounce. Whalers just literally waiting on the splittest of seconds before he chows out, and this might be a potential team push, but the bait in number 3, Henry gets on the point, and now the player's going to try and double stack this one, but number 7, Corey, still playing it patiently as he has an engagement up top. He's not able to win it. Henry and Jerd win their first initial engagements, and Whalers, now he strikes on the flank. They are going to get some kills. Number 8, Snake still alive on the hill, but they trade him out. They've only got one man in Jerd on the point, but now Jerd, got to be careful here, Pablo. He's got to try and potentially play for streaks, because in the grander scheme of things, as we know how tight some of these rounds can be, that all-important 5th kill could be huge. And he gets it.
Yeah, absolutely. They've done really, really well just to get onto the hill, and they've got that tick and a half. So big opportunity as Jade starts to roll back the years. We are back in Black Ops 4 Jade as he drops a 7 streak and he's 8-2. And this is huge. They've got the 2 ticks, and this could be massive for United Nations, Major, because this could be a very first attacking round. And as you say, if they break save this early, this could be really bad for Flux Esports.
I think Jerd's tuning in. He heard us doubt him. He was having absolutely none of it. He was just like, "There you go, boys. Have one of those and put that in the locker and keep your gob shut." Wow, what a round there from the boys of United Nations, and an all-important attacking round one going to come through there for the boys in blue. And Jerd on a 9 streak now. What a set of kills that was from him just to hold that B point. But that is literally what you need to capture the B point, Babs. You can't really do it with an occasional trade here and there. You literally need to be lights out, and luckily, I think Jerd comes through for the boys.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of approaches you can do, and obviously what they've done there, they've got a player at the back, and they've managed to just keep him silent, keep him passive, and then when the trades go out, as the player on back tank pushes round, he's able to then get the pinch, and they dive straight through mid, knowing that team are spawning out to field, and that just allows them, they know where the spawns are, and they get the picks. And again, it does come down to making your own luck, but there is a little bit of luck involved. There are a number of different ways to do it, and that is just one of them, and a huge play by United Nations. Not only to do that, but Major, that's one of the first times we've seen an attacking round, and it's the first round as well, so huge plays from them. And Major, this is looking really, really bleak right now for the team in red.
Yeah, and I think either Bearish Corey's gone for a cup of tea, or maybe nervous toilet break, because he hasn't moved all rounds. So the boys of Flux Esports, they're going to have an even more difficult round now, currently repping 3 players. And we are actually going to see a disconnect here, so I assume the game should be ended shortly, as Flux going to, I would assume, maybe not try their luck with 3 players, or whether Corey's just had an issue and might try and reconnect regardless. But with 28 seconds left on the clock, obviously it's looking a little bit bleak now for the boys in red, as they're going to try and get this round over and done with. But again, Whalers on a 5 streak, looking for more. Going to try and hunt down those potential remaining few players. 16 seconds left on the clock, though. There's not a lot of time for Flux Esports, and down to 3 players. They are going to send them pretty much all over towards B and try and count their blessings. 11's going to be on the point. The shots come through from Whalers. Manages to grab potential gunfight there, but he's not going to grab the kill, as they are going to still try and stay alive on the point. But number 511 is going to get taken down. Sean's going to drop as well. And with 8 seconds left, I think this round is done and dusted. And I would assume that we see a match restart potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I think he managed to disconnect reasonably early into the round, and I think they were still around at about 20 odd kills between each team. But again, you know, just proves how difficult it is. You can't play a 3v4. It's impossible at this level. And
Yeah.
again, you know, not a great deal of strategy to analyze there, as there's just no way you can trade out effectively. So we're going to just see if this game gets reset, and we'll take it from there. But again, you know, the performance out of United Nations right now is just, you know, causing the boys from Flux Esports massive problems. You've got how it does look like we're going to get the restart as we were just about to go through the stats, but it's just unfortunate for Flux, who just, you know, at the minute they just can't hang in terms of respawn toe to toe. They were very close, you know, in terms of that first hard point, but again, that really came more down to a kind of lack of comprehending the actual particular moment in that game, where if they stay on the hill a little longer, they go into an early lead and then potentially then push on to the bottom grannies. And then in S&D, where we do know that they're a much better side, they managed to see it out, which is great and a good confidence boost for them. But coming into Tuscan Control, this is, you know, already looking bleak. We see that break of serve early on, which we talk about time and time again. We don't really see it very often. So again, whether that's an indicator of a skill disparity there, and when you've got Jed rolling back the years after having, you know, what we could consider a relatively bad performance in the first handful of games, that is not looking good for Flux Esports.
Yeah, so obviously we'll try and keep you guys updated as and when guys get lobbied up and sorted in for their next game. So I would assume after that one, it would surprise me if United Nations aren't 2-0 up in that one, because obviously that's a big round that they took in that first one. They'll be fuming if it gets chalked and it goes back to 0-0. But that approach that they took over towards that B point, Pablo, obviously we saw Whalers going all the way around the back, literally didn't move for a good, I mean, it felt like forever, but it was probably maybe 10 to 15 seconds to allow his teammates to get into position. They checked the respective corners well. Obviously, Jerd, it helped that he got 9 in a row as well. But the patience there coming from United Nations, which we don't tend to see from quite a lot of teams. A lot of teams will just keep smashing their head against the hill over and over again. Life count goes down, time goes down, and that's kind of how those rounds get carried away. But obviously in Control, if you do get that wave of kills, you play it patiently and you stack the hill, you're pretty much good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the stacking of the hill that's the problem, and getting there without really taking too much damage. So, I mean, I suppose there are two schools of thought. You can, again, we did argue earlier on that one of the kind of like inconsistencies from both teams is their lack of patience going into games, and in particular important strategic moments where they tend to feed the hill quite a lot. And again, that's not a lack of player knowledge. That's just cohesion and chemistry, and, you know, being able to sort yourselves out in terms of scrims and that. But then going into that Control, you know, you've got this school of thought where you have one player at the backfield. You know, that's where they're generally going to spawn once you do get the kill. So if you're able to get a kind of wipe across that, and that player is able to pinch around the back of Church and then round the back of the zone, then you've got like a dominant position from which you can. And if you do lose players as well, you know that the opposition are going to spawn in that backfield, so you can push through mid. And it's not a straightforward strategy. It's difficult to execute. Again, your only other option potentially is to support a player between Church and the hill, where you top ramp and then you push through. But again, that's even more difficult to execute, because if they spawn out and come through Church, then they can pick you off there. So a couple of ways to do it, but you just don't see it happen very often. And a lot of the time when you do see it, it's because you have a skill disparity right there. So right now you would suggest United Nations just slightly ahead of Flux Esports in terms of capability and gun skill, and in terms of effectively being able to execute your strategies. And I mean, it's proven the pudding in that first hard point, and they took it to the wire in terms of S&D. So big moment for Flux Esports, and maybe an opportunity to turn things around.
Yeah, and obviously they're going to be looking to the likes of Corey to have another big map, because he was a pivotal factor in that map too. So if the boys have Flux, you feel like if they can put up numbers in this Control, there's no reason why they couldn't at least potentially push it to that round 5. Obviously, it's going to be difficult now with what we would assume they would be 2-0 down, so they're going to have to try and come back and work a mini reverse sweep, so to speak, in the Control. But also as well, Pablo, like over on that B point, you talk about how exposed it is, and I think you can never really underestimate kind of the importance of those grenade spots. We've seen a couple of teams find some really, really intricate ones from time to time, especially from like the back of their spawn onto that B point, because you've only got kind of that statue in the middle and you've got the perimeter around it where somebody has to hide. There's an opportunity, and that's why it's so difficult for players to hold the point, because it's almost like they're spawning back tank. They're throwing maybe 2-3 nades at a time if they get team wiped, and it's one of those hills where as time slowly progresses, it will be interesting to see how team strats slowly start to change, because we've had little snippets, haven't we, of teams sending a lot of bodies over to B right off the start. Sometimes it works, sometimes it goes terribly wrong, and it's a really difficult balance to find sometimes, isn't it? Because if it goes wrong and you do lose that first wave of kills, you allow the defensive team to push up in control, it can be absolutely brutal to you.
Yeah, brutal's the word. It can be a slaughter. Obviously, if you try and push B as early as possible and you get team wiped, which is invariably what happens because it's such a strong defensive position, then you not only you're not only down, but it makes A so much more difficult to get to grips with, which is why, unsurprisingly, we see an A push in particular from the weaker teams. So, and this is going to be another massive head-to-head right now, as Flux Esports have got the biggest of all regains to try and do. And already, Major, you can see this hyper-aggression coming out of United Nations, and in particular, the two players that have been really, really good for them in this series so far, and across the board in Whalers and Abuser.
Yeah, so they coming through from Abuser, and there you go, just slaps it right in the face of 11 as they look to try and quickly transition over towards the A point. So those red arrows of Flux Esports, they did transition over towards B to try and reinforce what potentially could be a really, really difficult position if they did lose that B point. But now by doing that, United Nations just completely bait them out. They now take the A point. Abuser on a 3 streak looking for 4. Nice work from him, Whalers and Henry now combining for 7 as it stands. Abuser just waiting for a potential bait and switch, maybe work himself onto another glide bomb here. 11 up top. Oh, big kill there from 11 to take him off of streaks. But now this is where it gets difficult, isn't it, Pablo? The boys of United Nations, Whalers still hunting for more. He looks to try and push himself out, but no, but they cut him off of streaks again.
Yeah, and again, in this kind of like scenario where you were starting to see just 2 or 3 kills going the way of United Nations, it starts to become like death by 1,000 cuts, almost by a kind of like slow moving TDM. But right now, it does look like United Nations are just completely in the ascendancy again with the 3 life lead. And again, they just allowed to roam around, and when Jed is killing people like that, getting 2 pieces on Corey and 11, 2 of the kind of most competent players you would see in terms of gun skill, in terms of their quick ability. You've got to ask the question, where are Flux Esports heads right now, because Jay just absolutely bodying kids, and the kill feed, Major, rather worryingly, is still very, very blue.
Yeah, Abuser looking for more as 11 is just trying to dance with death at the moment. They will manage to get the reinforcements over quick enough, but now we're still a minute on the clock here. Flux, they've got to be careful of lives. They do finally stabilize with a few kills. Corey knows that Whalers is out the back still as he's lurking, just trying to reposition and potentially pick off some more important kills, but Abuser over towards the pillar side. Is he going to win the engagement? Oh, the shot's a little bit windy there, and Sean going to manage to punish him for it. So it is now 10 versus 9, and a life count that was looking rather bleak for the boys of Flux has now completely flipped on its head. As now it's going to be 8 all here at the moment. It's just back and forth at the moment, as we come to expect on Tuscan. But the boys in United Nations, they are slowly starting to tick them away little by little. They're now down to 5.
Yeah, trying to go through the life counter at 28 seconds to go on the Tuscan B zone is absolute madness. We don't think we're going to be able to accomplish it, but right now, United Nations, just respond back. They clap back and absolutely body. And again, Jay just feeling himself one more time. 8 and 7 and on a 2 streak, and he claps them all the 3. And United Nations are going to take that round. And if they were 2-0 up, that is game, set, match right there.
Yeah, so we'll just wait to see if that is confirmation. We'll just wait to see if the big red button gets hit and the boys decide to chalk it. And it looks as though, it looks as though that's going to be the case. So the boys going to obviously leave out, lobby up, and get set. But a really competent map there from the boys of United Nations, Pablo. We haven't seen a lot of that from these guys. We've seen obviously little sparks in some series, and then they've had kind of moments in others where they've looked a bit ropey. But that control, to be fair, was incredibly one-sided.
Yeah, I think over the last week or so, they've relied really heavily on Whalers and Abuser to do really well. That's no offense to the other 2 lads, but they, in terms of statistics, especially if you look at that first week, they are light years ahead of the other 2 players in terms of having a positive KD. And then going into the second week was it's been a difficult, premise for them again, but finally able to get another win on the board. So it doesn't look too bad, but again, I think they end 2 wins and 3 losses, but it is just going to be an unfortunate one for Flux, who get the the fat donut right the way across the board, and they're going to finish last. But they need to take some positives away. The performance from Bearish Corrie over the last few weeks has been something they can be proud of, and they've got to go and take that VOD and start to have a look at things, because we know from experience, Snakes teams are not lacking ever really in gun skill, and by the end of the year, they're usually there or thereabouts, at least in the top 8. So again, they've got to look to that kind of performance. But again, the other big problem for them is they drop into that kind of open map pool, is that there are plenty of teams who are desperate to be in their position, and plenty of teams who are thereabouts in terms of their skills. So they've got to have a hard reset back to the lab in probably the most difficult way. And the same for United Nations. And again, we talked about the stock value of those players that they've got there. And you would consider that if Jed and Whale is able to find that form of yaw, then this could potentially be a very good side. And you would probably suggest that they're going to, when they go back into that open pool of teams, are going to still do quite well. So, good play from both teams, but unfortunately, they are going to finish in those bottom 7 and 8 slots.
Yeah, and obviously going now into a Gavutu Hardpoint, this is now an opportunity really for the boys of a United Nations to either try and see this one out, or the boys of Flux to try and claw one back, and again try and force the game 5. I mean, we flag this map up as one where it's very, very flex heavy. If you've got a really good important flex player to try and almost dominate this map, it's one that's really, really difficult for a lot of players, especially those MP40 players, to try and transition across the map on Gavutu. So the boys in Flux, especially, for example, Luke, obviously playing that main AR role, they're going to be looking towards him to kind of to shut down the likes of Whalers, who are obviously going to look to try and dominate areas of the map. And we talk about that every time, that transition from P2 to P3 to P4.
Yeah.
If one of these teams gets their teeth into that particular set of hills, and wins rotation after rotation, we know how difficult this map can be to try and claw back a lead.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's a very similar scenario to the Desert Siege S&D, in the sense that you are going to rely quite heavily on those quality ARs. And I don't know, we haven't got a lot of information in terms of Flux Esports and that Gavutu Control, Gavutu Hardpoint. I don't think it's being played very often. And again, they were 0 and 6 in maps and on across the board on Hardpoint. So again, just another good opportunity for them to just get some hard practice in. You would suggest, as we spoke earlier, that with the kind of ability from Whalers and Abuser, who are again having a great series, that they're potentially going to look to dominate this game. But again, it is about chaining those hills together. And if you are fortunate enough, and in particular, we've talked about getting the glide as early as possible so that you can start that kind of rhythmic run across P3, P4, and P5, that it's going to be all important. Main problems for them right now are going to be, as they head into that P4, if they don't get the spawns, are they going to be able to cut down United Nations the way some teams can? Are they going to be structured enough to do it? And then obviously, if they do end up not getting the spawns for P5, that could be problematic. So might be a good opportunity for someone like Flux to maybe try and take a bit of time on the P1, try and get good control of it, get themselves into an early lead, try and get good boat control, and then maybe confound what we would expect from a team. I feel like United Nations are potentially going to be strong in the latter part of this map, but this is a good opportunity to Flux to maybe throw the cat among the pigeons and get some big time across the first two, because I feel if they don't get good time from P1 and P2, that it could be a huge uphill struggle for them. I was genuinely under the impression as well, this is how bad my memory is, Major, that United Nations took map 2. I'll get me coat, mate, it's all right.
So the boys of United Nations isn't going to be a 3-0, perhaps. We are currently sat at 2-1. So Flux, can they manage to work a bit of magic here on the Gavutu? It's a Marmite map, I feel, this one. A lot of teams love it and a lot of teams hate it. I think it's probably those teams where they've got the more AR dominant set of 4s, I think are more happy to see this one. I feel like you either, as a team, you love Gavutu or you love Bocage. I don't really think there's one where one team loves both, to be honest.
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, I think this flows quite nicely, this map. I mean, I kind of enjoy it on pubs, so I'm clearly a weirdo. But again, you can if you've got good setups, if you've got good strategies, you can dominate quite heavily, and it makes sense to an extent. You kind of understand what's needed to win each rotation, so it gives good teams an opportunity to play well. The problem for a lot of teams, as you pointed out, is if they don't play it very well, it can run away from them so quickly. We saw this at the start of the season, where we saw teams games, racking up 150 point leads really early on, and it becomes really difficult to claw that back. So again, good from Flux Esports. They're able to get into the lead off that P1, but the problem again, and what we pointed out was, are they going to be able to get a dominance over towards middle boat? And right now, number 2, Abuser, that player that we've pointed out time and time again, who's been really, really good so far. And of course, Curse of the Caster, I managed to get him dropped. They are going to get that boat control, and this is going to be a problem for Flux Esports. They're going to need to be clinical in the way they deal with United Nations.
Yeah, more importantly as well, Henry's on 4, and with that glide bomb, we know how pivotal it can be. So Jerd's going to get taken down. Henry still playing his life, and he gets the 5th kill as well. So really important kill coming through for United Nations. That glide bomb ready for the next hill. As you can see, Henry already over towards that side of the map, just playing it slowly. He is going to finally get dropped by 11 as Flux Esports finally get what is an all-important, no pun intended, flux of kills, and they will finally to try and work their way in towards this game once more and reduce that deficit back down to less than 10 seconds. So nice work there. The Snake manages to cut down 1, but now the rotation, these gunfights are going to be really important. Jerd's going to get taken down, so good couple of kills from Flux. That kill feed lights up red, and I'll tell you what, they are going to have to lean on Henry's glide bomb here, Pablo, because Flux Esports, towards the end of this P2 and subsequent P3, they are looking ready and set up to go.
Yeah, and they've got a slender lead, but again, they're just in a great position. I would suggest United Nations are in no position right now to get set up to make any use of the glide bomb. They're going to need to be a lot closer to this P3 in order to get any real kind of mileage from it. So this is going to be a big fight going down right now, and that's a huge kill as 11 does deal with Abuser. And again, you can see why United Nations just reticent to call in the glide, because they're not able to get onto the hill even if they call it in. So that's a massive kill. They are going to be able to just take up a little bit of geography towards P1, so potentially expect it to be pulled out now, and we expect to see drop that straight onto the bonnet of Corey, and that's going to give them an opportunity. And it's a good solid 30 seconds if they can get set up. So it's got to be major a slap back right now from Flux Esports.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Sean managed to get a glide bomb as well, unless the overhead panel was telling me porky. So I'll be interested to see if he decides to throw it back potentially with only 15 seconds left. I don't think he is going to opt to use it, as the boys of United Nations, they will manage to grab a little bit of time on that one, but more importantly, they've now got the rotation. There's number 5 pushing up. 11's going to get caught out on that occasion. Corey's going to try and work his way all the way around this right-hand side and potentially try and spawn the boys in blue just a little bit further away. He has got whalers literally just to his left. Corey, he's right there. Turn left. There it is. Finally manages to grab the kill, and he's still going to edge his way further around the back. The boys in blue know where he is, and Sean, there's the glide bomb, takes Abuser out of top tower, and now last man on the hill is Jerd. Going to have to go big.
Yeah, absolutely, and we have seen him go big previously, but he finally gets bodied, and it's going to be Corey with that all-important kill, and again, with a solid 40 seconds potentially to take off this, and they have got a little bit of mid-map control, particularly, look, number 5 and number 8, and that is huge right there, as Snake and Sean combined to nearly drop the whole team, and again, really good opportunity for them, and they've got a solid lead of 40 seconds, so Flux, doing everything they need to do to potentially get back into this series, and, we did say this potentially smelled like a game 5, but right now they are doing everything they can, but you can see already United Nations trying to get set up and trying to get into position for this P5.
Yeah, number 8, Snake, though. Oh, how many can he grab? There's 1. He manages to take down whalers. He's still got Jerd underneath him. Can he potentially disrupt set up here? He is going to make a really good read onto Abuser, but Abuser just doesn't miss a bullet. Absolutely fries him there, and Luke is going to get taken down as the boys of Flux Esports going to have to look to try and collapse, and Sean going to take a similar approach, and he's actually going to invest the glide bomb as well, so they really want to try and get this momentum going. Flux Esports, they don't want to lose it. The glide bomb's not going to tag anything, but it does offer the boys of Flux an opportunity to transition over, and they managed to get 3 kills here. United Nations, they still have Henry near the hill, as there's still 30 seconds left on this. A lot of time to play for, and the boys of Flux going to try and bully their way in. Snake has got another man lurking. Is he going to manage to take down whalers? Yes, he is on that occasion. Snake with a big kill, and this is important time here for Flux Esports, Pablo, because that lead, standing at 60, could potentially go out as far as 80.
Yeah, and one thing you've got to suggest is they're playing with a nice rhythm, they're playing fluidly, they're getting big kills, and regardless, you would hope if they get into that position where they go 80 clear, that they're going to be able to do a really good job on the one thing that we thought they weren't going to be able to do, which is to be clinical when it comes to breaking, and they've done this time and time again. So fair play to Flux right now, and obviously with Snake playing really well, your in-game leader that you want to see, you would hope that Corey could get into the game a bit more. He's got a solid chunk of time, but on 5 and 9, that is not Corey's natural play. So if he can drop a few kills into this could be a huge game for Flux Esports, and they're going to make me not only eat my words, but eat my brain as well, as they look to try and get back onto this P1, and they're going to need to do a break major fairly soon.
And Sean having a hell of a map, but Henry is going to look to try and reply with a little bit of spice of his own as he gets 5 in a row himself and his team. Wow, that momentum has completely shifted and completely flipped on its head now. The combined streak at the moment currently sat at 11 between United Nations as Flux Esports really struggling just to even get in towards the hill. The bait and switch comes through, but Snake, a double nade out of absolutely nowhere over the top. Manages to at least open the door to grab that all-important scrap time as Flux Esports are going to look to try and grab more time, and another engagement there as Snake manages to drop 5 in a row now for Luke as he is starting to get heated up, and him and Sean at the moment, they are putting the boys in the backpack. Corey, if he can come to the party and join in as well, as 11 is just currently close to breaking even. I'll tell you what, United Nations, they have got to be careful here because they are getting blown out of the water a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And so not only did they manage to get a lovely amount of scrap time on P1, not only did they get the glide, but they maintained mid-control, and they've been able to not only get some nice time on P2, but they've been able to kind of contest heavily and slay out heavily, and they're going to be ready for P3. So if they're able to kind of get themselves set up, they could either use the glide to potentially force that team in blue back, or if they are able to get broken, then they're going to be able to push that player out or for troop carrier or around troop carrier. Abuser and Whalers don't team up to drop down. You can see that kill feed going entirely red, and this game is swinging back and forth. But at Flux Esports right now, still with a healthy 40-second lead, that is potentially about to change, and you would suggest that number 2 Abuser is going to get the remainder of this scrap time.
And Whalers, again, this is what you've got to look out for on Gavutu. Whalers has just managed to grab another 5 in a row, so I anticipate we will see a glide bomb potentially out of both sides here, because I believe the Snake has got one as well, unless he's used it, but I might have missed it potentially. But now glide bomb is going to come through. Henry invests it, take the man out of the hill. That's the first protocol. Abuser's going to grab a kill as well, and there you go, there's the glide bomb tennis as Snake just replies with one of his own. They still have the spawns over towards the back, but Jerd is just watching this lane as he's going to try and potentially grab that kill, and he will manage to get it as well. But again, another glide bomb, this time from Whalers, is going to take down Bearish Corey, and the boys in blue, they've broken into the hill now. Flux Esports, they've got to be careful here, because this time is going to push the United Nations in the lead if they can't even get a little bit of scrap time or a little bit of contest time coming through. Corey, though, with a nade of dreams, manages to take Jerd out of the hill. We don't tend to see that a lot, and potentially that could be actually a massive moment for Flux.
Yeah, absolutely. It's allowed them to stay in the lead. United Nations are going to be pushed off, and there's going to be a big fight go down. And Corey with an important kill on Whalers, and I guess he's going to get the remainder of that scrap time. It keeps them in the lead. But look at that. They're number 4 there, Jed, going to come up behind, and he's going to potentially get a handful of kills. Unfortunately, he is going to fall to 11. So a good opportunity now for the boys from Flux to just start to exert the pressure over towards the back. And you can see the encroaching Bearish Corey and Snake over towards Beach. And this is going to be a huge fight right now. But they have got number 1 and number 4 Whalers and Jed to deal with, and that is a gruesome twosome at the back of the beach there that you don't necessarily want to deal with. And right now, Major, we've got less than 10 seconds between these two teams.
Oh man, United Nations, they have held this hill with a dead man's grip at the moment, but 11 is going to get a couple of kills to open up the opportunity for a couple of players to work in, as he's just toying with the fact of getting on the contest spot. He's going to finally jump up but get taken down. And United Nations, wow, that is an incredible hold. They just opted to switch it up a little bit on that hill, and the boys of Flux Esports now, they are on the back foot here as we rotate over towards the next hill where the gunfight's going to go down. You can see Flux, they do have a heavy presence over towards this next hill. Snake is going to be on the time. Corey just going to be keeping an eye over towards the previous, and he is going to spot Whalers there. He's just trying to play his life, but the kill feed lights up blue, and look at those arrows, Pablo. Number 4 in Jerd especially, going all the way around the back. He might be able to... Oh, no, never mind. I jinxed it.
Oh, big play from 11 though as he drops Jerd and Abuser, and that is a huge play as he's managed to kind of almost single-handedly stop that push around Beach and through P1. That's going to be a good opportunity now for Flux to consolidate this P5, although number 8 is kind of left isolated a little bit. Number 2 from Abuser is got the opportunity to get that kill as he drops 11, and now he's going to have a sight over P5. So the all-important ARs that we like to see from this kind of dock position are going to play a pivotal role in potentially, you know, keeping them in the lead, getting them in the lead, and this could be a massive P5, and you can already see the thoughts start to move towards P1.
I'll tell you what, they're going to have to move over towards the hill, United Nations, because they can win off this Flux. There's only 10 seconds remaining and 14 seconds remaining on the time. But again, the players hop off the hill, and Henry gets 3 out of absolutely nowhere, and the kill feed lights up blue. So now, can they win off of this? This is the contemplation point. Can they win off of it? The contest is going to come through. They definitely can't now. And the boys in blue, they now have the rotation over towards P1. They have the setup. And oh my goodness, Flux, surely they've not done it again here, where they've put United Nations in a really good position to potentially pinch this one. 20 seconds on the clock. Henry, another kill comes through for him. More players, good reads onto one. Corey's going to fry. Oh my God, an Abuser helps him out to grab another important kill. But now the boys in blue, they are just soaking time after time. Every single second now is just going to be a dagger in the back of Flux Esports in this series. And with 3 seconds remaining, number 7 Corey's got to go huge. He's going to get taken down. They can't manage to get it done. And United Nations have pulled it out the bag, Pablo. Another map where Flux Esports are just going to be kicking themselves.
Absolute madness again. We just see them pop off the hill at entirely the wrong time. You know, if they go and protect the rest of that hill, is this a mathematical problem? Wild performances. They just needed to hop in the DeLorean, hit that flux capacitor, and hit it to 88 miles an hour because they were seconds away from taking that map, and we would be in the game 5 we talked about. And it's insane plays. And we talk about, you know, these little things, these tiny little mistakes. That's quite a big mistake, you know, not realizing that you can potentially win off the P5 and just throw your entire weight behind it. A little bit overcautious, looking to try and commit some players to P1, and ultimately it cost them the game because it was the problem that we thought might be the issue from the outset, which is, are they going to be able to cut through United Nations, you know, when they need to? And unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. And again, you've got to look to those players. Whalers 22 and 23, but going big Henry 28 and 23 and 22 untraded kills. Huge plays with a 2.55 kill per hill average, which is higher than everyone else's. And it's those kind of stat lines that matter. It's those untraded kills where there's no support from the opposition to each other. And despite the heroics of the likes of Snake himself and the heroics of Sean, it's just not enough, and it's going to be 3-1. I get to rectify the scoreline there, Major, a little bit, completely losing composure in this wild game, and it is going to be United Nations who do finish 7th, and it is going to be the boys from Flux with the donut and finishing bottom.
Yeah, I suppose if there's one positive thing that the boys of Flux can take away from that is that they literally could have won that 3-1 themselves. The map 1, 2-point difference. Yeah. The Search and Destroy, 6-5. Map 4, 250 to 246. Yeah. I mean, they came so close. They literally could have won it, potentially 3-1 themselves. And all of a sudden now they find themselves, unfortunately, without a notch on the board in the elite group stages. So unfortunately, they will finish bottom. They will manage to take home a little chunk of change as well for their efforts, I suppose you would say. And they get that all important set of games where they get some information under their belts. Pablo, obviously, they're coming up against the finest teams in Europe. They did incredibly well, even just to get to this point. Not many teams can obviously boast that they got to this stage. So it's a really good opportunity for these boys, and hopefully they've learned a lot from it. So that the next time when obviously the qualifications come through and they have another swing at it, they can obviously look to grab at least a series win, because they came close at multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, they can take a ton of information. There are a ton of positives they can take. They're obviously going to, you know, they can consider themselves a good S&D side, and especially in Berlin. And no one wants to play them. They're a banana skin when it comes to S&D. So, you know, they can improve on that. They can potentially give themselves at least one round when they come to play in the next set of qualifiers. They just really need to improve their kind of like their chemistry, their strategy on the respawn modes, and in particular, obviously, Hardpoint. I think they're in control. It's a little bit easier for them. There are only a handful of strategies on those two quite technical maps that you can do, and as long as you're staying toe-to-toe in terms of kills, then it's fine. But you really got to look to their Hardpoint respawn. They've got to just massively improve against the more difficult sides. And obviously, if Bakaj Hardpoint stays in the rotation, it's always going to be an opportunity to cause an upset. But while there is a Berlin Hardpoint and a Gavutu Hardpoint, they really need to go back to the drawing board and start to work on that. They've clearly got, you know, reasonable gun skill in comparison to the rest of the teams. They just need to really start to work on effective strategies.
Yeah, and so we had a 3-1 in this series, but we've also had a 3-1 in the other one, and it is going to be Originals managing to take the win over TMT. So that game now between boys of Moneyform and let me just double check Revenge Tour. Yeah, so that game now, obviously on the main broadcast, youtube.com/COD Challenges, that is going to be a massive game. The boys of the Originals, they can just sit back now. They've done their work. They can put their feet up, and now all the pressure is really on Moneyform. And Revenge Tour, I mean, we talk about it, the name, how it came through, and obviously Denzel looking for more revenge. If he takes this one and knocks Moneyform out of that top 4, he's going to be really feeling himself, and I would assume we'll see a big gif on Twitter later if that is to be the case.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure he'd be overjoyed if he was able to do that. If I'm the Originals and there's a bit of time, I'm going into a scrim with Revenge Tour and putting them through their paces before they hit that Moneyform game, just to make sure they've got their gunny up. But probably not enough time. But Originals doing well, and they've put themselves in the only position they can to get through, which is great work from them. But pressure really on Moneyform now, and it's not been a great week for them. You know, they've really struggled at times and against some of the bigger teams. And again, we look to Sunday where, you know, they had that opportunity to got into the grand final kind of with, in what looked to be in great form, and then they just got double reset by the Young Galactics. So, again, they can be taken, they can be dealt with in Revenge Tour. I am almost certain that Denza is going to want to go big in this. You know how keen he's been to get on Twitter and to apply the pressure. So this is going to be a great opportunity for him to thumb his nose at his previous team. So yeah, this should be a superbly interesting game.
Yeah, so obviously that one is going over on towards the main broadcast. So if you did miss it, guys, it's youtube.com/COD Challengers, all one word. But we are going to quickly cut to a short break because we do have another map over here on this channel, and it is going to be Sucre's Bakery up against Young Galactics for our next series. So don't go anywhere, guys. Grab your food, grab your drink, because we will be back for another clash of the Spanish Titans, and we'll be back in just a second.
Ladies and gents, welcome back to Call of Duty Challengers Elite. We're back again with the Spanish giants, Mr. Pabs. We've got the boys that produced such a good series at the weekend, and fingers crossed they can do exactly the same for us if they got our memo once again here.
Man, this is not just about seeds, but this is Spanish bragging rights right here, because from the weekend they kind of won a piece, I guess. This is going to be absolutely monumental, and again, we spoke about this earlier, the smell of a Game 5, but this 100% has got the whiff of a Game 5, and a little bit of caramel waffles as well, Major.
Oh, I see what you did there. That was smooth. That was smooth. So the boys of Young Galactics at the moment, just with a little bit of a lead, and we know that what the boys of Sucre's Bakery also have in their locker as well. Metal's looking for more kills as he is going to get taken down on that occasion, but again, not really too much to write on for P1 as the boys get ready over towards P2. Mr. Eric Boom there managing to grab a couple of kills. Journey though just lurking around. And the boys of Sucre's Bakery going to look to try and potentially steady the ship here as they try and work their way in. Yako is going to look for a couple of engagements here out the back of Barney. He's going to spot Journey, and nice shots there from Mr. Yako, a man that performed very, very well at the weekend, Pabs. He obviously, him and his team couldn't quite get it over the line, but they're obviously going to be looking more to him in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. He was huge at the weekend, and obviously in conjunction with Eric Boom at Spirits. But Yako got off to a slow start, but he has made up for it since then with a solid 4, and he's going to be searching for that 5th. He's potentially going to get it. Did he get it just before he got dropped? I'm entirely not sure, but it's been a good performance so far from Sucre's Bakery. And again, Major, this was toe-to-toe at the weekend, kill for kill, and there was very little to separate the teams by the end, and we expect nothing different this evening. Where it matters most, you would suggest this is entirely what they've been shaping up and preparing for. So big moment right now, and what a way to start it, mate. A Bacage Hardpoint.
Oh, mate, didn't even get a chance to breathe after the last series, and obviously we're coming into 2 absolutely titanic teams. Over towards the other side of the table, up in towards the top. So these 2 at the moment, they are currently the 2 that have only lost 1 series. So this is for the top bragging rights, and obviously that all-important first seed going into the bracket. So every single map again for these boys isn't a write-off. Every single one is going to count here and now, and Braille, the man that we've seen have such a good start to his Call of Duty competitive yet, is going to be looking for some more kills in and around a hill that can be particularly difficult sometimes to break in, Pablo. And some teams either seem to be very hit or very miss at this bottom Granny's Hill. But the boys of Young Galactics at the moment, they're going to have to try and work their way through. And it looks as though they are still spawning out the back. They've got the close spawns. They get the important kills. They trade everyone out.
Yeah, I mean, those close spawns are everything that gives you the opportunity to just, you don't need to have that kind of geographical separation. Everyone can kind of get in as close as possible, so it makes it very difficult for the team that is spawning out towards mid. But the one advantage is, if you are that team, is that you're potentially going to get the opportunity to get a chunk of time over towards this barn hill, which is probably the most contested hill in Call of Duty right now. You do tend to see the kill feed go back and forth. It's very difficult to maintain any kind of control or composure, so when you do see it, you know it's kind of something special, and we expect to see the gunfights just go back and forth. It'll be interesting to see if there is one player or one team that can potentially dominate.
Yeah, and considering how the kills have been, the boys of Sucre's Bakery at the moment, they're probably looking at that and thinking, oh man, okay, we need to try and get our rotations locked down a little bit, because Young Galactics, they're not exactly blowing them out of the water, but saying that Journey's now on a 4. Woo! When as soon as I said it, the Spanish man manages to hear it and comprehend, and nice work there from him to put himself out to 5 in a row. So I do believe he will have that glide bomb ready to be used. But Super, he's actually going to manage to work himself onto a 3 in a row. He looks for potentially his 4th and 5th kill, but a good hill from Young Galactics is going to see Sucre's Bakery just soak up what remains of it as we rotate over towards the next hill, and this is potentially where we can see some streak usage any second, maybe from either one of those teams. And Journey at Real combining for 2. Sucre will manage to grab a kill as well, as it's just currently back and forth. Nobody currently controlling over the tops of the hill. It looks as though Sucre is just going to play a slightly more patient role. So too is Real before anyone gets on the time, and there you go, glide bombs incoming.
Yeah, they're just going to... Yako just going to look to disrupt any potential push from the boys in purple. Young Galactics, though, very capable. They don't need 4. They can potentially do this with a 3. We are going to see absolutely huge plays as Real and Journey team up to decimate Sucre's Bakery. And we're going to see that hill go purple. And this is where these guys are potentially dangerous.
Real inside the hill, soaking up what remains of the time. Still a decent amount of chunk here for Sucre's Bakery. They've got to be careful not to grant them too much time. Obviously, Sucre, the man the team is named after, currently just going a little bit slow by his standards at the moment. And with 15 seconds still remaining, it will be Young Galactics who are going to hop back on the time. And it looks as though Super is just going to lurk up top here, and he is going to manage to grab another kill onto Real. So again, mixy and messy on Bocage as we come to expect it. But now the new hill going to pop. But now this is where we talk about it, Pablo. Obviously, P1, you got to feel sorry for it sometimes. It feels like the unloved child of Bocage because everyone just seems to pie it off and rotate for P2.
Yeah, and one thing that we've noticed time and time again with Young Galactics is they will literally get set up for kills and not necessarily look for a great deal of time on it. They'll obviously get it where they can, but their attention, you know, from P5, you would almost suggest is about P2 and just being able to get, you know, keep the contest over to P1, make sure that the team opposite doesn't get a chunk of change, and then make sure you've got spawns for P2. And that's exactly what's just happened, as Young Galactics are going to potentially be able to fight from the front and going to have those P2 spawns. But it looks like they've kind of overcommitted to Sukri's Bakery, just absolutely sliced through them. And, you know, Major, one thing I would suggest as well is that player to look out for. You know, we talk about him time and time again. Obviously, we know Yakko and Ericboom are going to go off, but Super is probably the most consistent player on Sukri's Bakery right now. He's having a reasonable game at 16 and 14, but if he can just get into the game a little bit more, this could be a lot better for the team in light blue.
Yeah, and still trailing by a little margin at the moment. Around 60 points is going to be the difference as that P2 is going to pop. And Ericboom with a couple of kills to take down Metals as well. Journey and Real, though, the position is impeccable from Young Galactics as we come to expect from them in a hard point. And Real looking to try and join the party with a couple of kills of his own. But number 4 in Journey's actually gone all the way into Grannies to potentially disrupt a couple of players. Super will actually sniff him out and take him down. But every single second now, they can manage to disrupt those players, at least getting on towards the hill, because now we can see Ericboom just soaking up a little bit of time here, and he's on that side, Pablo, where we've seen a lot of teams actually get a lot of success from holding this P2, from literally from staying behind the tank, allowing those players to have the back spawns, just keeping that man on the hill alive.
Yeah, that was, I mean, Major, that was a thing of beauty as Sukri's Bakery just waltzed through them from the front and cut them down. They managed to get a player in behind, and they're going to get a reasonably, good amount of time off this P2 from a position they had no right to get. Again, it started with that kill over towards Lower Grannies, and they just did a really good job of taking that P2. And now, again, they're going to have to repeat this. You know, would amaze me if we see a second kill where Young Galactics just kind of allow themselves to get tagged up. So this could be huge. We are going to see Metals with a big kill on Super, and again towards the back there, they're going to defend that reasonably well, but again they're back on the kill, so back and forth. And you know, we talk about in any other hard point a 60-second differential can be monumental, but in Bocage, I mean, it literally could be a handful of seconds before it's back. So it's crazy plays, and Sukri's Bakery still well within this game, you would suggest.
Oh, and Eric just racking a few kills together before he finally drops. Lucky and Yakko both getting kills for their respective teams, as we come to expect here in bottom Grannies. It's just messy back and forth, but the boys in purple, obviously with those close spawns again, are going to get a big chunk of time there on that hill. And with 10 seconds remaining, it's going to push them ever closer to that 200-point mark as Metals up towards the top of barn he goes, manages to make light work of both Super and Yakko. Good work from Metals, and he's a man, I was going to say he's a man on a mission, 4 in a row, but a big kill to come through there from Super, who is going to cut him just short of that infamous glide bomb, as the players now looking just to try and position themselves to get a good amount of map control here on Bocage. We know how difficult it can be, but the boys at the moment on both sides, they are just battling back and forth for this barn hill, as we come to expect, Pablo. Every single entrance, you can just have a player at any single second.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. This hill's crazy. I mean, to an extent, you just got to maintain a contest and just make sure that you're set up for next. Again, one of the problems we see for Sukri's Bakery, and we did just highlight it earlier, was, you know, are they going to be able to replicate that P2 going into Grannies? No, they weren't. It was a superb hold from Young Galactics at times with pressure right on top of them, and they were still able to battle back and get the time. And they're doing it again in Barn, where they've managed to get themselves out to around at about 75 seconds. And each time we talk about this kind of death by 1,000 cuts, but they are pushing out each hill and grabbing 15 seconds lead, grabbing that and making it and extending it. And this is a worrying time for Sukri's Bakery, who again can't afford to go one behind, because we know how strong Young Galactics are when it matters.
Yeah, nice shots coming through from Lucky, just locking down that elbow side of the hill. And now it's going to be really difficult here for Sukri's Bakery, just to try and resist the temptation of throwing bodies at it time after time. You can see Yakko's going all the way around the back, and he might make the play. Journey's going to grab a trade, but here comes Yakko. Manages to take down one onto Metals. There's still a couple of players nearby and lurking, one of which is going to be Journey, but good work there from Yakko for the pinch. But you can see Lucky as well is actually pinching the pinch. It's just one of those merry-go-rounds that we tend to see from time to time on Bocage, and that's exactly what he is doing. He is going to finally work his way down towards this elbow side again and looking to get some shots into one. Takes down Sukri. His teammate Journey grabs a kill as well, and the boys in purple, they manage to survive and get more important time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's that premise again. He looks to get the flank, maybe just to kind of disrupt the play of Sucre's Bakery so they're not able to maximize their time, even if Young Galactics can't get on the hill. But as it stands, the gun skill, and they're able to drop, the majority of plays, and they get the time remainder on the hill. So, again, a worrying sign if with the gun skill, Sucre's Bakery got this deficit should not be the case. They are not a team that should be 100 seconds behind Young Galactics. They proved that at the weekend, and this again just goes to show just how dominant these 4 Spaniards are. And right now, when you've got Real negative, but he's absolutely capping time at 1 minute 24, you know that you are potentially on the struggle bus as a team. But look at the bottom, Journey, 36 and 35, potentially about to drop a 40 bomb on Sucre's Bakery, which is an absolutely monumental effort. And right now, you are seeing that kill feed major going very purple.
Yeah, this is dangerous now for Sucre's Bakery because we know how good Young Galactics can be at holding that next hill. Eric's going to do his best to grab down 2 players, but Metals comes with 2 of his own. Real's going to combine, and so will Lucky. So they managed to get the clean wipe, and they can still win off this hill. The boys of Sucre's Bakery, they've got to be careful. They've got to try and get somebody on it. Number 4 in Journey is going to look to try and get it done, but they do manage to take him down out of the hill. They do have the rotation, but now these gunfights are all important here for Sucre's Bakery. They've been blown out the water in this middle stage of the game, but Real round the back. Can he be the final dagger in the side of the boys of Sucre's Bakery? It looks as though that will be the case, and it will be. Young Galactics going to take that map fairly comfortably, Pabs, which is something we don't tend to say on Bocage. 250 to 150.
Man, I mean, my mind is blown. Normally, these maps, just the Bocage's Hardpoint is so close in general, and you expect it out of these 2 teams. We expect to see a 250, 245, or it go to time, but no, not at all. Young Galactics are here to play, they're here to win, and more importantly, it's prescient that it ends with Real, the young phenom, who's had such a good few days in terms of how he's played, but the old master there, Journey, racking up some huge kills, and Young Galactics, I mean, unsurprisingly, not so surprisingly, 1-0 up. And again, we look to those performances the weekend from Sucre's Bakery. Were they an indicator of things to come? And right now, it's not looking the case because a 100-point deficit on Bocage is an absolute masterstroke.
It's really odd when we talk about Young Galactics because that Cup 4, we refer to it as the hiccup, but they still got through to the final. They obviously just didn't win it, but they've won 4 out of the other 5 cups. They've obviously been the team that everyone has been looking to say, right, these are the guys, they are at the peak of Europe. So it feels odd to say that they're kind of struggling in times in certain series. It's an odd phrase to come by a team of 4 that have been so dominant in this Call of Duty. And obviously in that last cup that we saw, the boys of Sucre's Bakery, they were literally the best bet at pushing them. We saw a lot of game 5s with these guys, and obviously we're now going to go into map number 2, into Desert Siege, and we've got a matchup here where I believe we might have seen a Desert Siege between these 2 as I frantically try and scroll through my history. But
no, we have 100% of watched Lucky and Super go off on the sniper front. We 100% have seen this.
Yeah, so we know what the boys of Young Galactics have to offer on this map. So it's one now where the boys of Sucre's Bakery, if they are going to make a series of this, because these are the 2 top ones currently in the group, first and second place. Obviously, we know these 2 locking it out. They're obviously fighting for that top seed going into the bracket. But the boys of Sucre's Bakery, they're going to be looking towards this map number 2, because when you give Young Galactics a 2-0 lead, it feels not impossible, but very unlikely that these lads and this roster is going to let that slip.
And when you consider, I would say that Tuscan Control is their absolute strongest map. Like, obviously they can waltz through most teams on every other map, but they are just absolutely untouchable on Tuscan Control. Yeah, you need a Desert Siege. Well, good news for Sucre's Bakery is they've got probably one of the better AR players and one of the better snipers in Europe in Super. So if he can have the kind of game we know he can have and get those first bloods, all important first bloods as well. But more importantly, we do need to see Yako and Eric Boom go off. We know Yako had some good games over the weekend, but unfortunately for them, Eric Boom not so much. He went 1-9 in one game, so a big moment for him, and we know he can do it. So this could be a vital moment in kind of like the turning point in terms of his maturity as a player, because we see Real playing really well and he's the hot young phenom right now, but Eric Boom potential to do really well, and Yako as well. So with the support from Super, if they can get that first blood and get that bomb site control, and then with the kind of in-game leadership from Suki, this could be a massive moment for them to potentially take this series back to 1-1. And again, we know how vital it is in terms of the seeding, but not just that. Obviously, they want that confidence boost to know that they can potentially see this team out when it matters.
And the thing is as well with Young Galactics is we think of them as such a good respawn side, but the last time these guys met, in the cup. Obviously, the second series, it was Young Galactics that won both of the search and destroys. So
Yeah.
it feels odd to have a team where you feel like, right, they're a Hardpoint is their go-to game mode, but then they consistently win search and destroys as well. And I think that's where this team is just so well rounded. They don't seem to have too much of a weakness. If they have an off map, it's very, very rarely, and it's usually when pretty much all their players are struggling for kills. Because this is another thing that we've brought up time after time, where they might be getting outslain by quite a heavy margin, and they just have a knack of holding, especially in hard points, of just holding into the series to give themselves not too much of a mountain to climb, where they might have a player or two borderline double negative, but only be trailing by 30 points. And then as soon as those players kick into gear, that's when you
Yeah.
really start to get the dangerous side of this roster come through.
And again, we talk about you can pad your stats out a little bit in hardpoint to make it look like you're doing very well in terms of kills. But if you're not converting that into time, which we talk about that kind of like time to kill efficiency, and Young Galactics have just got it at the sweetest spot. So what they might not look like they're absolutely slaying out, but for a fact they've got two players gobbling up time. So that's the other thing. And when we do see them kind of get put under pressure, it's when a team gets right into their face and is super aggressive and really knock the rhythm. And you need kind of top tier gun skill to do that. It can't just be done.
Yeah.
You're not going to see a team without that immediate ability to drop a player all headshots, kind of predicting the right corners. You need an element of luck as well. So you do see that occasionally where they get put under pressure, but it's so difficult to put them under pressure because the strategies are so good, because they tend to get a player who flanks quite effectively, or say in the case of Lucky and Hardpoint, who can defend scrap time like 1v2 people, 1v3 teams.
Yeah.
And we've seen it so many times. Lucky on his own in a hill with 15 seconds remaining. The other three have gone to next, so they're going to dominate that next hill. And Lucky will drop the two players that are pushing the hill, and you just think, how do you play against a team like that? So again, and we did see it the weekend, though, Major. We saw Sucre's Bakery kind of put the cat among the pigeons. So big opportunity for them to come back in Desert Tees, and they've 100% got the players to do it.
Yeah, and I think if memory serves me well, when we saw that first best of 5 in the previous cup, when these two met, Yakko and Super especially, they were very, very good in those search and destroys. With I believe the round 11, they both got 2 pieces, if memory serves me well. So they're obviously going to be looking towards those boys again to have a really good series. Obviously, Eric, you know what you're getting with him in terms of just aggression and kind of that pace that when him and Yakko kind of match the boys of Young Galactics, that's when you get those really mixy hard points. Obviously, search and destroy a slightly different pace game, so obviously players have to be a bit more strategic and a bit more patient with it. But when they do go toe to toe with the boys of Young Galactics and they match their pace, they do give them a good run for their money.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think one of the kind of defining philosophies or strategies between these two teams is that Sucre's Bakery are very, I think they're, I don't want to say limited, but they have their roles that they're very particularly good at. We did see Eric Boom kind of rock the AR at some points in different games, but they are very much those players. But we know in terms of like philosophy that Real can suddenly turn things off, not be that player that gets kills, and potentially go and get time. So this is going to be important in this particular role. Who's going to be flexible? Who's going to get the first picks? Right now, it is going to be Sucre's Bakery with the advantage. They're going to be in that 3v2 situation as Lucky and Real drop, but they have still got the heroes of Metals and Journey to deal with. But Eric Boom and Yakko, this is going to be a great opportunity for Big Eric to get himself into the game.
Oh, and Yakko, his teammate, I believe, have got the final kill. So Sucre's Bakery, they are going to take the first round and put their first notch on the board for this one. And this is kind of Lucky's realm, sometimes it feels like, doesn't it, Pablo? He's so good at getting the picks with the sniper, and we know how good he is with the pistol as well. It feels like he doesn't really need an MP40 or a primary weapon when he's running around with that thing, and he always seems to get kills with it. We know how strong it is in general, but obviously in his hands especially, he's a real menace to on the side of Young Galactics. When you can shut him down, Young Galactics, especially on this kind of map, the likes of a Desert Siege, the likes of a Berlin, those are the ones where you think, right, okay, we've actually got a bit of a chance here if we can keep him quiet. And Super, to be fair, we've seen him time after time as well himself have a real menacing map with the sniper, and that's exactly what he's done here with the First Blood.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, we said to point him out from the start, he's an absolute superstar. Lucky does respond back as he drops that in-game leader in Sucre, and Yakko straight away going to tag that up, and that was a hell of a round. Sucre's Bakery get the win. And Major, who do we look to, who's playing, a completely wild performance compared to what he did the weekend? Eric Boom must have cared us talking about him, and he has absolutely gone off. He's in bang form, I would suggest, but he's the player you really need to look to in this team. If he plays well, and the rest of the team, obviously Super getting them first bloods, and Sucre's Bakery are really in good health, and Major, he's got the glide.
Yeah, so that's the all-important part of that 5 streak. He's now got that artillery in his back pocket as and when he decides to use it. So it'll be interesting to see how Sukri's Bakery opt to try and incorporate that into a couple of strats. Lucky just going to be keeping an eye over no man's land. And he does have metals alongside near him, so the info going to come through. You can see Eric now just going to try and play it sneaky. Laying down. Bomb should go down. It doesn't look as though it is contested anytime soon, but the nade's coming out over the top. I'm going to tag Eric up as he manages to dip out Real up top, though. Got to be careful because there's Yakko as well nearby, and Yakko's going to grab the first blood on towards Journey. They're still hunting for Eric, who is over towards the site. Real is going to spot him, but it's going to be a difficult situation. And Yakko, while all this madness is going on, he's just picking them off one at a time. And it looks as though finally Real's going to take Eric out of that train as the picks come through, one of which is Super with that sniper all again.
Oh, and the team just fall by the wayside. And Sukri's Bakery just looks superbly dominant right now. A huge performance again from Super, but Eric Boom again getting a couple of kills. But you've got to look to that Yakko two-piece right there. Huge plays. Eric Boom goes for the dive. And again, I'm pretty certain I called him Big Eric Boom before, and I know I'm going to get absolutely ridiculed for saying that now. But huge plays from him right now. 6-1 and Yakko 4. Again, a player you pointed out before we started that is a player they're going to rely on. And again, we talk about, you know, if you think that Sukri, if he starts to get involved, this game could quickly run away from the Young Galactics. They are 3-0 down, and Metals is on a fat donut right now. Yeah,
and an important bit of news as well. So that Money Form versus Revenge Tour game. Money Form have dropped map 1. Revenge Tour take it 250 to 222. So Money Form now, squeaky bum time going to be coming through for those boys. But meanwhile, over towards this series, Super and Eric Boom, they are going to drop. So now a much better round here from the boys of Young Galactics just to try and potentially claw one back here. Yakko again, still playing it patiently. He's still one off streaks, but saying that Lucky shuts him down. I believe he ripped his head clean off with the sniper of that one. So now Sukri, difficult position. 1 versus 4, he will fall. And a much needed round there, Pablo, for Young Galactics. If that started going 4-0, they're going to start to be worrying a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to change their strategy right up. I mean, at 3-1, they can probably continue to play their own kind of regular S&D strategy. But at 4-0, that's when you start flapping. That's when you start making silly mistakes. And again, it just, you know, in terms of confidence, it puts the Sukri's Bakery. That's going to be immense. Right now, I think probably being punished by the fact that Sukri himself is on an 0-3, playing it turtling just a little bit, maybe. But again, Young Galactus, you just can't write them off, mate. We did this at the weekend where we were like, there was this huge disparity in scores. And then Young Galactics can just come back from any position. They can chain 4 rounds together in no time at all. So you do have to be on guard and cautious and really prepared for these kind of engagements, Major. So it is, you know, potentially still advantage Sukri's Bakery, but they need to learn from those mistakes from the weekend.
So who is going to grab that all-important first blood here in round number 5? A couple of shots have been exchanged. Oh, Journey, 28 HP. Wants nothing more to do with that. Just going to slip and slide away just for the time being. Again, the calm before the storm as players get set up here. Journey just still waiting. And Eric Boom's going to grab the first blood as well. So another important kill from Eric. He is going to get traded out by Real, and it's just back and forth at the moment. The Super and Sukri grab 2. So now it's all on Lucky. Another round which is looking incredibly clean here for Sukri's Bakery. Now needs a bit of lucky magic here. Can he manage to work something? Oh, he spots the man on the outside. Oh, never mind. Doesn't win it. The pistol isn't going to be good enough on that occasion.
And that's a shame because I think he absolutely dominated with the pistol at the weekend, but it is going to let him down. And again, a difficult one off the top row, trying to get the headshots with it. And it's going to be Sukri right there to get off the mark, no less. So a big kill for him. And again, another big confidence booster. And we talked about that deficit, and it is there now. So this big deficit that they really wanted to avoid, it's 4-1. And again, they just can't allow this round to get away from them. But Sukri's Bakery in a good spot, you know, the driving seat right now to tie this series up. And we continue with the Spanish Civil War right now. And again, you've got to look to those two players, Metals and Journey, who normally contribute effectively in S&D, just a little bit off the ball. He would go as far to suggest, Major, they're on the struggle bus right now.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me though if all of a sudden they come back with a round and all of a sudden they're both 4-4. So now,
yeah,
Light Bomb's going to come out. It's not going to collect with anything though. Eric was going to invest it to try and take one man down, and Journey and Metals, there you go. They managed to both win gunfights, and now Bomb goes down. Journey is going to stick it. Oh, no, never mind. I don't think it did go down. The nade lands right on his forehead. Super takes him down. And now that bomb in an awkward position. The boys of Sukri's Bakery, they know where it is. Real, though, just toying with a potential gunfight up in top here. And Eric is able to win that one. The Battle of the Young Spanish Phenoms comes through in Eric's favor. But bomb does go down. And now the boys of Sukri's Bakery, they're going to have to try and work a rework here over towards the site.
Oh, and another big fight goes down, and it's going to be one for Soup here with the AR. So, again, proving that he can do it in close quarters, never mind from distance, and it's going to be Metals all on his own in this 1v2. He is able to get a big kill, though, so Metals does drop Eric Boom, but again, does he... Oh, Super, again, Mr. Reliable Major, as he's able to take that, and it's going to be another round for Sukri's Baker as he gets his sprint on. He's going to fire some celebratory shots as they're going to go 5-1 up, and it is advantage Sukri's Bakery are potentially one away from tying this series up. And again, Major, we can smell that game 5 potentially.
Oh, man. Sukri's Bakery, I'll tell you what, I don't smell around 11 in this one. The way Sukri's Bakery are working on this, 5-1 up they will go now. So the boys of Young Galactics don't really see this very often. I think the last time I saw them getting absolutely battered this time was when it was Moneyform on the search on Tuscan. They normally get some form of momentum going in a search and destroy, but now they're going to need every single remaining round. Now they can't drop any more. 5 in a row is going to be the requirement. And we'll see now whether or not the boys of Sukri's Bakery can potentially absolutely blow them out of the water here. And first blood, Eric Boom manages to grab it. He's been a thorn in their side. All search and destroy. Rail is going to manage to reply with a kill, but so too will Sukri. So now 2 versus 3 for Lucky and Metals. And we'll see if they can manage to clutch up here. And it looks as though the boys of Sukri's Bakery just going to grab that bomb and try and work it over towards the A site. They've got to be careful, though, because Metals on the flank. Can he get the pick? They spotted him, but Super takes him down. And all of a sudden, Pablo, this round is looking bleak. Lucky last man up. Will manage to get Yakko, but still needs the 1 versus 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you've got to consider Super's caught the glide. Is he going to push it out? No, I think he's going to rely on his gun skill, and Sukri's Bakery are going to take that 6-1. And you've got to look to the player in Eric Boom right there. He must have heard our taunts from the weekend, because he has absolutely gone off, and he has taken that S&D by the scruff of the neck and said, this is going to be mine. You know, you talk about Real all the time. Well, don't forget that I am here as well. So between himself and Super, absolute work, Major. And we are back to 1-1, and this is shaping up to be as much a banger today as it was at the weekend.
I'll tell you what, that was a statement to come back from Sukri's Bakery. Obviously, that first hard point, as far as Bocage goes, we said pretty one-sided, 250 to 150. And then Sukri's Bakery have just done exactly what we've come to love of Vanguard, of one map incredibly one-sided to one team, and then the next map incredibly one-sided to the other team. So now we're currently tied up. And I mean, if you're planting your flag at the moment, the way those first 2 maps have gone, it's a pretty split decision. The Young Galactics, they did a really good job on map 1, but that search and destroy, they just didn't really seem to get going.
Never turned up really to the races at all, and I think the reliance on Lucky to get first picks is so strong. You look at the games from yesterday, he got maybe 3 first bloods in the S&Ds they did play. So, you know, that kind of reliance, you need the plan B. And again, I talked about their flexibility earlier on, and we talk about, you know, potentially, obviously it's a very important weapon in terms of, aside from getting the first blood, suppression and information. But, you know, when it's not working out for you, potentially, even if you're, you know, it's not able to get that support in for your other players, even if you are getting the occasional pick, might be time to change to the AR and mix things up. Again, they just look lost at sea, and again, it's something we don't see very often, so it's truly surprising. You know, Major, one thing we did see is this kind of like change since Eric Boom's been picked up by Sukri's Bakery. They just look so much more solid and disciplined, and they're proving it time and time again. The question really remains, though, when it matters, can they see the game out?
Yeah, and well, Tuscan Control, for anyone who did miss the cup last time, so the first time these guys played each other in the winners bracket, I'm pretty sure, I will just double check, it was Young Galactics. They won it 3-0, and then when they played each other again in that losers final, it was the boys of Sukri's Bakery that won it 3-2. So yeah. We've got another position where we can't lean really on anything to say which side is in particularly going to do better than the other, because both these teams tend to feel like when they're firing on all cylinders, they pretty much trade blow for blow, especially in some of these respawns. So going into a Tuscan Control, it just underlines it. It feels like anyone's game at the moment, as it should be. I wouldn't like to go into kind of this final game between the 2 teams that are fighting for this top spot and say, oh, well, one team is pretty much going to get a 3-0 here, because this is the beauty of it now. We end up in a situation where we don't have a clue. Flip a coin. It could be either of these 2 that finish top of the group.
I mean, I'm going to completely confound that and say completely the opposite, mate. I am going to plant a flag, because despite the scorelines over the weekend, I'm going to literally just I like to throw the cat among the pigeons myself. But, you know, prior to the weekend's cup in the previous group of round robins in the week before, the Young Galactics looked so strong on the Tuscan Control that you would suggest that, given the statistics, they probably are the favoured team to take it. Again, we talked about at the weekend, though, was this ability from Sucre's Bakery to assimilate information quite quickly and then regurgitate it into effective strategy. And they did that at the weekend. They got absolutely annihilated in that first Tuscan, and then they come back quite strong. Again, it's all about, you know, the clever plays and being able to make sure that you get those defensive round when it matters. But you know, that comes down to good gun skill and getting those, maintaining that kind of positive deficit in terms of kills and deaths, which we know Sucre's Bakery can do, especially if Yakko and Eric Boom are absolutely firing on all cylinders. And if Eric Boom in particular can take that form from that S&D into the Tuscan Control, I suggest this could be a really good opportunity for the boys from Sucre's Bakery to go 2-1 up major.
Yeah, and obviously Journey and Metals, I think, obviously by their standards, with how good they've been this year, that Search and Destroy was a bit of a struggle one for them. It was one where they kind of struggled to get going, and then it just felt like a little too late for those boys. But yeah, Tuscan Control, obviously, we know now that defensive side, how important it is. It's going to be obviously something that we'll keep an eye on as the game progresses in terms of kills, in terms of life's deficit, because that is really going to be an important factor in a map which, to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if we go to that round 5 and then all of a sudden we are literally inhaling to see who is on that defensive side. Because I'll tell you what, if Sucre's Bakery push it to the round 5 and they get that defensive side, they're going to be pretty happy with themselves, because they then go into the remaining potential 2 maps. Obviously, you don't want to write off Young Galactics just yet, but looking forward into those remaining 2 in Berlin and potentially Bocage, I mean, yeah, say flip a coin, really, because it's one where either side could take it. And Sucre's Bakery, on the grander scheme of things, they could potentially walk away with a 3-1 win.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm sure they'd be overjoyed with that as well. And again, we've just got to see how it plays out. I do think Young Galactics are in the driving seat to take the Tuscan Control, but you're right to suggest that the next 2 maps could actually be anyone's. And again, we've just got to look, you know, we just got to hope that Sucre's Bakery, you know, in terms of those 2 MP40 plays, can absolutely go off, because we know the Young Galactics can just, even against these, they occasionally feel like they can go through another gear or just start to up the pace by 10%, or they suddenly like remember strategies and they start to employ them, and it just looks like a complete domination. So hopefully the guys from Sucre's Bakery are going to be able to play this to their absolute maximum ability, and we need that to be, you know, the likes of Yakko and the likes of Eric Boone to continue the form that they've been in of late and go big. Really need to see Eric Boone go big, and then with the support, we know Supi is Mr. Consistent. He is going to potentially do very well, and then Sucre obviously is that in-game leader, potentially doesn't need to do as well as the others, but needs to pull the strings, and we're going to see this hyper-aggressive push, which Major, you talk about time and time again. You never see it, and it looks like the boys in purple are trying to throw the cat among the pigeons already.
Yeah, and they've done it right in the opening round, which is something we don't tend to see very often, but they've done a really good job here. They've still got 2 players on the point, and that first tick has now come through, so it will be up to the boys of Sucre's Bakery to potentially try and reposition and reshuffle, while the boys of Young Galactics try and get some progression over towards that A point. You can see number 6 in Yakko is just going to be working his way in towards top fire, and he gets one there. There's going to be another man in Real, and Yakko with some nice beams there right off the start of it. Sucre's Bakery going to get the contest through, and they take pretty much everyone down, and already you can see Yakko just toying with the potential to push up and try and grab a few spawn kills. He is just going to double back here. But the boys of Young Galactics, they've got to be careful, because every single wave that goes in against them is going to be a really difficult one in terms of life count further down the line in this round.
Best team in Europe, with the 4 best performing players in Europe, get a successful push onto B, and it still proves to be a mistake in many senses. You know, they end up getting wiped off. They've got 1 tick. They get team wiped across A, so they're down in lives, and more importantly, they're down in time as well. And this is why pushing towards that B can be so very difficult. And you can see they've tried it again, and they are starting to get good progress, but that's going to get drained back. They have got those 2 ticks to A, but again, they're going to leave themselves with very little time to do it. And as they try and, you know, prod and press these different strategies, it goes to show just how strong that defensive side is on B Tuscan.
Now, Yakko manages to take down one. They've still got Journey in the back. He will finally get sniffed out and shot by Eric. And is Lucky going to reply with a kill of his own. So now Young Galactics only trailing by 3 lives. Just going to have to restructure themselves a little bit here and try and work as a team. So it wouldn't surprise me here if we are going to have a little bit more of a potential bit of quiet, but never mind. Super's going to manage to drop Lucky as well, so that 4-man push has already now dropped. There's some shots going in as Journey going to take down Super, but Eric Boom absolutely flies around the corner, fries Real. Lucky is going to trade him out, and they do manage to still have Journey near to that point. But with 1 minute on the clock, that time can really start to slip away quickly.
Man, I am reeling from that Eric Boom shot as he bodies Real at them. Tightest of angles. Unbelievable play right there from the young phenom. And the team in blue looking really, really strong. They've got a 7 life advantage, and they have got players absolutely frying across the board. Mr. Consistent right now, the kill leader, 9 and 3 super. Definitely one of the better players in the EU right now. And that has been a hell of a performance. And when you consider that Suki is basically driving the struggle bus on 2 and 6, this has been a huge performance out of the remaining 3 Sucre's Bakeries players, and there is no comeback from your Galactics. And again, they just seem, you know, a little bit lost, and they're going to get picked up by Eric Boom, who's roaming around that top tiles area. Finally gets dealt with major by Metals, and they are left with 6 players remaining to make a push.
Oh man, I want to know what Eric Boom's sensitivity is on, because that gave me motion sickness. He turned so quickly on that one. Eric's still flying around, and he gets another kill. And I'll tell you what, with the life difference currently stood at 9, this is a really solid round here for Sucre's Bakery on the defensive side. If they can just try and keep this relatively close, oh my goodness, they are winning gunfights that they really shouldn't be winning now. Last man up is going to be Real. He is going to just launch himself off the map. But we spoke about the life deficit, Pablo. Sucre's Bakery, that is a damn near perfect round for them as far as they're concerned, because now they've got an opportunity here to potentially, if they can keep the life counts close in the remaining rounds, they'll probably more than likely be on that defensive side.
Oh, absolutely. I know you love your tennis metaphors, but this is a great opportunity for Sucre's Bakery to potentially break safe. Interesting to see how they employ their first strategy. I would suggest, you know, learn from the team in purple that going to B is an ineffective strategy. Even if you're successful at getting onto the point and getting a few kills, eventually you end up getting team wiped anyway. So we are going to see a much... Oh, Eric Boom is absolutely going off as he just runs into church. No fear of Body's journey, but yeah, we're going to see that kind of more standard push towards A, and you can see already they're getting a great deal of time. And number 6 there is going to be Yako pushing through to church, ready to take advantage of taking up that little bit more geography. But at the minute, Sucre's Bakery, my days.
Oh my goodness, I thought he was going to get the second one as well. Yako is just a man on a mission at the moment. Around the back he goes, only able to take down one. Lucky will trade him out, but that A point, the second tick, is now done. They're still just waiting for the third one. I'll be surprised if Young Galactics try and work their way onto it. It looks as though they're just going to try and get set up and just turtle in towards this B point. So already those purple arrows just going to position themselves in a place where they can potentially work a few waves of defenses here. So Sucre's Bakery, life count only stood 2 in their favor. Yako just checking all of his respective corners, and you can see out the back as well, number 8, Eric Boom. He's got to be careful because Real's going to manage to take him down, but meanwhile, over towards this P5 journey, he's going to take down one, flies around the corner, tries to break the ankles of Super, isn't going to be able to, as he manages to reply with one of his own, but now Lucky getting ready in position. They've still got the issue, though, of Sukri out the back. They're going to have to try and shift him.
Yeah, absolutely. And Suki, I've just been watching. He's absolutely turret at the back at the minute. You know, player who just had an appalling S&D, but they've still managed to get the win. But again, just feeling himself at the back. And this is the one of the players you want to see go off, is your in-game leader, your kind of talismanic figure with the most experience. And right now, he is absolutely fine. He finally gets bodied, but it does take 3 players from Young Galactics to kind of see him out. And that's going to allow them an opportunity to get that first tick over towards B. And with 1 minute 32 still on the clock and that 3 life advantage, this is a great opportunity. But Major, we've seen teams in this position time and time again, and this hidden strength of how easy it is to kind of get back onto your defensive platform is going to be really difficult for Sucre's Bakery nonetheless.
Yeah, and they had an opportunity there, the boys of Sucre's Bakery, just to stack the point. Just stack the point, boys. They got some kills, but they just opted to try and push out their lanes and almost pin the boys of Young Galactics back. And with the gun skill that those guys have got, they can get themselves out of the deepest of holes if they need to. Yako is just going to be the last man, just lurking while those players get in towards positions again. Try and hold out a wave of players. Lucky just going to shoot some thin air on that occasion just to check that nobody's currently in that corner as the boys of Sucre's Bakery, they're going to prepare themselves for the push. They manage to grab a gunfight, though, and they win it. Super takes down Real. Out the back, a couple of their players go, but number 4, Metals, he's still locked up in the back. They can't really shift him at the moment, and Real is going to mop up the last remaining man, and they're running out of waves here, Pablo. They've only got 2 potential waves left here in this one of Sucre's Bakery because the time is really not with them.
Yeah, and with that slender 2-light differential, I mean, it's not going to make a great deal of difference to them. Young Galactics, again, it just shows you, as we see the team kills go out, how straightforward it is at times from this defensive position to just keep getting kills and make it really difficult for the attacking side. And again, it's a monumental struggle to try and win an attacking round on Tuscan, and it shows you how unbalanced it is as Rael drops super towards mid-fire, and look at that kind of geography they've taken up almost across the middle of the map. So huge play by Young Galactics, but again, reasonably predictable. This Tuscan defense has just proven to be, almost a perk in itself. It's insane. And again, I'd be surprised, Major, if we do see a break of serve the way these two teams are playing defensively.
Yeah, they look very, very solid. Obviously, Tuscan, a map that does aid that defensive side, as you mentioned, Pabs. It's one where it's really, really difficult to try and push your way in. But the boys of Young Galactics, that combined streak now between Lucky, Real, and Metals currently sits at 8. So if they can potentially get one, if not two players with some streaks, it might open out an opportunity for them to try and bombard that B point and stack it. So we'll see what they can manage in towards round number 3. Real is just going to be keeping an eye on this right-hand side of the map as Journey gets the first blood. So now Real's pushing himself out to 4 as well. And Super going to look to try and wrap back here because they've got word that Real is here. It looks as though he is just going to be prioritizing this B point. They've got to be careful, though, not to give them too many lives. Real will fall, though. That's a big kill. They still need to try and at least shift Lucky, because if he gets that 5th kill, as mentioned, Pablo, and he gets that glide bomb, that might be something that Young Galactics will lean on. But, who other than Mr. Eric Boom to absolutely batter him off of the thing they call Godheady.
Yeah, absolutely. Such accuracy from Eric Boom, and that's massive when you really need to body a player like that who's about to get the glide. Up pops the young man, and he's able to get the kill. And Sucre's Bakery, again, although they have got that kind of advantage being in that defensive position, you still need to get the kills. And against the team with this kind of accuracy, they're doing so much work. But look, Major, that kill feed's going completely purple. And no, we kind of expect it over towards this A. It's going to obviously play into the hands of the attacking side. But again, the balance in this map is insane. I mean, it's so reasonably straightforward to get A, but it is such an uphill struggle to get B. But the team in purple right now, Major, they are flying and they are doing everything in their power to get this B zone. 23 lives to 19. They're about to tag up A, and they've already got players in and around there right now, so causing mayhem from two sides of the map, Major. And this is going to be, as they say, an absolute monumental game already, a kind of El Clasico in the sense.
Yeah, and it looks as though they're going to try and double stack this left-hand side. Yakko flies up. He does spot Real. He knows there's at least one here over the top rope, and Yakko gets both of them. Really good work from him. And again, the boys of Sucre's Bakery now going to look to try and push out some lanes. Can Yakko win another one? No, Lucky going to shut him down on that occasion. And while all that madness was going out towards the back, Lucky was literally just on that A point, feet up, just chilling for the time being. But now, 1 minute 20 on the clock. 1 life difference between them. Now make it 2 as Real's going to grab an important pick. Eric going to look to try and reply with a kill of his own. And Eric, at the moment, when his movement's on point, he is so difficult to read as he manages to grab another important pick. The boys in blue replying with some kills of their own, and that's exactly what they need to do at this point. They now have 2 lives to the good, and the boys of Young Galactics only have 1 minute on the clock and 12 lives to work with.
Yeah, Rael tries to go through the top rope, not able to do it, and they're going to know where he is. But he manages to get that kill on Yakko, which is going to be potentially quite big. But honestly, with 9 lives plays 13, the way Yakko and Eric Boom are playing right now, they are absolute monsters on the map. They have taken over this series in a way that we kind of half hoped they would, but never truly expected. And Young Galactics just look, lost at sea a little bit. And again, we do argue that the defensive side is a little bit easier, but you still got to absolutely body one of the best teams, if not the best team in Europe. So huge plays and huge props to Sucre's Bakery as again they push right up, and again that's one thing that we see time and time again from these top tier teams. When they get the kills, they go and fill that space and make sure that they potentially get that. But mate, you see Lucky finally get onto it, but he's going to have a 1v2 and he's going to need to go big. And again, it's going to be Mr. Reliable gets the TK Major with a nade, but he does manage to drop Lucky in the process.
Yeah, and again another 5 life advantage here for Sucre's Bakery. As mentioned, guys, those kills all important here in Tuscan in a game that is of such fine margin. So it's going to be Sucre's Bakery that take that round. So they now go 1 round away. And if memory serves me well, Mr. Eric Boom does have streaks to work with. So it'll be interesting to see as and when he might potentially try and throw a glide bomb at this one, whether or not he's going to try and maybe bank on the fact that his team might get that defensive round with that, obviously that first defensive round and the second one being very strong. And he is now 6 in a row, and I think it did come up with Sucre having one, but I don't think he does. I think that might have just been the little glitch that we see from time to time at the top of the screen. But Sucre's Bakery now with those streaks in hand. They've just got to try and potentially pick when they use it, Pablo. Do they save it for that important round 5 if they do get on that defensive side? Or do they use it now and try and get this done 3-1?
Yeah, it's about to break the serve, and again, it's about timing it still within this round. If they do use it, it's got to be about getting that point over to the back, so controlling back tank and controlling field. That's the only way we've seen an attacking team do it, get any kind of result, regardless of kind of the skill disparity. So that could be interesting to see how Sucre decides to use it. So a potential opportunity to use it now, but again, Major, you could be right, they could save it and you know, use it in a later stage. But again, they could also potentially get more streaks within this, so plenty of opportunity for Sucre's Bakery to do well, but Young Galactics are going to potentially, you know, be on this defensive side, and we could see this go the conventional way, back and forth, right the way through, and the end of this round, Major, could be superbly important. If they save the glides, and the scores are close in terms of lives and deaths or equal, that could be absolutely, you know, game-defining towards the end of this round.
Yeah, Eric Boom and Super grabbing a couple of kills. Players try and structure themselves once again. Lucky, I mean, when you have pistol shots like that, I mean, you just don't even need a primary weapon. He's going to absolutely rip through Super from behind on that one. And Super still lurking, looking for more kills, but he's not going to grab any more on that occasion. And now the time is actually really starting to be a bit of a bane here for the boys of Sucre's Bakery. They still have Sucre on the point, but look at those purple arrows looking to try and pinch Sucre off of the hill. He's going to get tagged up, surely going to get dropped. And now with 25 seconds left on the clock, this is looking really, really difficult here in terms of lives and in terms of time. Sucre's Bakery, can they work a bit of magic towards the end side of this round? They've got to be careful, because if they keep gifting lives around, Pablo, this one might potentially swing in Young Galactic's favor, because it's currently sat at 11 and Journey is on an absolute tear, 8 in a row from him. This is looking worrying.
Yeah, more than worrying. They are right the way across the geography of this map. They are across mid-map, and they are bodying them in their spawn. And right now, with no time remaining, that's going to tie things up. But more importantly, that's potentially going to give Young Galactics that defensive side. And this could be a monumental moment in the game, because heading into these next 2 games, we know how strong Young Galactics are in Hardpoint, and in particular that Berlin Hardpoint. So this could be, you know, a round-determining, you know, moment in this series. So, you know, Sucre's Bakery feel like they just dropped off the gas ever so slightly, and Young Galactics just feel like they've just gone into that gear we talk about, where they just, you know, 10% quicker, 10% more accurate, and they execute their strategies just that little better. This is the Young Galactics kind of hitting that final form that we worry about time and time again.
Yeah, and I think if my maths was correct, Sucre's Bakery, I think they got that defensive side by 1 or 2 lives. So that is very slim pickings there, but they get that all-important swing round. But now Journey going to look to try and disrupt the flow here on the defensive side of Sucre's Bakery. Sucre's going to fall, and they will look to try and get more progression over towards this A point. And while Lucky is slowly getting that progression, you can see those purple arrows. I'll tell you what, they're starting to dominate some of the positions of the map that they really shouldn't be doing in the early stages. Number 1 Journey is going to go all the way around the back, and they are racking kills up left, right, and centre. I'm not sure we've seen any streaks come out of Eric Boom, and I'll tell you what, if this keeps slipping away like this, and the life count is as savage as it is from back and forth, and they have a good amount of time to work with here, the boys of Young Galactic. Sucre's Bakery, they might be forced to invest streaks sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and if honestly Yako's going to put this in so that they can potentially try and get this player off the hill, it's not going to work. Point A is secured with almost, you know, the maximum kind of time that you can expect to get from it, about 2 minutes 10. And while the life count is like this, you would suggest that, you know, so Young Galactics, if they just keep pushing and maintain their accuracy, they could potentially do the thing that we don't expect them to do, which is to break the serve. We do see that rebound right back. It's not going to connect, as Jenny does miss that glide, but again, he's going to be able to allow Real and Lucky are going to drop a 2-piece, so it is advantage Young Galactics. But again, this defensive side is proven to be it's a puzzle that's not being solved really effectively at all. And if there is a team that can potentially do it, it is this team in purple. So right now, 2-all, 22 lives play 16, and the life count may just start to run away from Sucre's Bakery.
Yeah, Super and Sucre, there you go. When they needed kills, they got them. A glide bomb has been invested from Sucre as well, but Super ripping both Lucky and Metals' skulls clean off their shoulders, and they've still got the issue of Journey, whether or not they can try and locate him sooner rather than later, because he might potentially be the key to unlock the door here on this defensive round. He's going around the back. Journey's going to take down one. The trade's going to be there, but now number 5 Sucre, he's got a lot of players around this corner. Spots Lucky being one of them, but now the remaining players and teammates are going to be there as well. The nade comes through. He might potentially be able to grab a few here because his teammates are nearby as well. The aggression is going to be imminent. Eric takes down one. Yako grabs one as well as it starts to get a little bit messy over towards that P5. Sucre's Bakery, they breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief there, Pablo, because they did have a little bit of a shaky moment there, but they've now got locked up again in position.
Yeah, absolutely. It was looking very, very ropey for a minute, but Suki able to get a kill and play his life, which was really important. And again, he's going to get bodied eventually, but you could see how long it took. And that kind of time was about 15 to 20 seconds, which could be important towards the latter stages. We've only got 40 seconds left, and there's 15 live space 11. We've seen it before where you don't need a monumental amount of players in order to do this, and the kill feed is going to go back and forth. Suki finally drops Journey, and they're able to potentially, if they can get this drop on Nettles, and there's Sukri's Bakery. Sigh a bit of relief, but only for a few seconds.
Oh my goodness, Lucky. I think he needs to go huge here. Oh, well, you can't when that happens. He's absolutely fried in there. The glide bomb from Eric is going to come through, but now with 17 seconds left on the clock, it looks as though Rael's going to have to try and be the man to at least touch the hill, because Journey's going to drop. But now can Rael make the play? We've seen him time after time produce moments of pure gold here, but no, he flies straight off the top, gets taken down. 5 seconds remaining. Number 2, Lucky. What can you work here? Takes down 1. Onto the point he goes. He gets traded out. Journey's going to try and join the party, but he can't manage to do it. And Sukri's Bakery with a really important map win. Pablo 3-2 on that one, and now they lead the series.
And we are back to that Sunday vibe where we were like, are Young Galactic's going to finally get seen off? Is this going to be the winner of bragging rights in Spain? Is the Civil War going to be contested? And Sukri's Bakery just looking great for their money right now. And you've got to look to the young phenom, Eric Boom, 32 and 25, 26 non-traded kills. Huge performance from the young man. And this is what we've wanted to see, with the latter stages of last year, and particularly this year, is that team looks so solid and so disciplined. They are completely Jekyll and Hyde compared to the Sukri's Bakery that started the first handful of cups. Eric Boom absolutely being, under the guidance of Sukri, just looking really, really good. And with that consistency from Super, who has been unbelievable and probably, the outstanding player so far. You can't write them off at any point. 2-1 up, and this is squeaky bum time, as you like to say, for Young Galactics going into map 4.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Young Galactics have got squeaky bum, but a team that will probably have a bigger squeaky bum is Money Form at the moment, because they are 2-0 down to Revenge Tour. Revenge Tour, obviously, if you guys did miss it, they took map 1 on Berlin, Hardpoint, 250 to 222. They took the Search and Destroy 6-3 as well. So now Money Form are going to need a reverse sweep if they are going to actually go through to that bracket. Revenge Tour, they have managed to do the dirty over them in the first 2 rounds. And I'll tell you what, if they manage to come through with that, the Originals are going to be the team that go through and qualify. But the confirmation of this series, meanwhile, has come through. So Berlin going to be map 4, and then obviously that Bocage for map number 5. But obviously staying with that information coming through of Money Form, Pablo, they really need to pull their finger out now, because they can't drop any more maps.
Oh, honestly, they need to do something they can possibly do. They've got the talent to do it, but Revenge Tour are going to be absolutely solid. You don't forget that it's not just those 4 players that want them. You're looking at the Originals, Rafi, Niall and co are going to be, equally as squeaky bum right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure they are absolutely eyes glued to that game. And fair play to them. They've done everything they can from the position that they put themselves in to get through to next week. So, big opportunity for Revenge Tour to really throw the cat among the pigeons, and they're doing themselves a favor in the process. And no offense to the Originals, but obviously if you look at the placement, if they're able to see Money Form out, it's potentially going to be an easier opportunity for whoever does face the Originals. And I would still suggest that's only going to be by margins, because these teams are awesome at this level. So in no way that's to be offensive to the Originals. They're clearly an outstanding team, and if they get through, they've done it purely on their ability. But this is going to be, it doesn't get any more exciting than this right now. And what a nice setup the way it's been done this year. So it's been superbly exciting.
Yeah, and obviously those top 4 slots, they play for 20,000, 10,000, 6 and 5. So if they can take out Money Form and make that life a little bit easier into the bracket play, I'll tell you what, that could be the difference between 6 grand and 10. That's a really, really big jump in terms of change for some of these guys, who obviously, this for a lot of them is a huge part of their lifestyle. Day in, day out, they grind this game. So that huge difference in prize pool will be massive if Money Form can't get through and potentially open the door for the likes of the Originals to maybe get a huge chunk of change from this tournament. So we'll keep you updated with that one as that unfolds, and to see if those boys of Revenge Tour, if they get a 3-0, blimey, we wouldn't have called that one. Originals, obviously they got their work done earlier, so the pressure was off them. They did their job, feet up, just watching the results. And at the moment, Revenge Tour, tell you what, the boys of the Originals might owe them a beer or 2 if they get that one done. And obviously Denzo especially will be smiling like a Cheshire cat if he gets that done.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to think this is, our first real kind of shake-up came after Cup 3 when we saw teams start to swap players out, and this is where we see the likes of Denzer go to Revenge Store, the likes of Beans get picked up by
Yeah.
the boys from Moneyform, and then obviously we've seen Eric Boone most lately go over to Sucre's Bakery. Well, if Moneyform go out at this stage, which they've got to consider as a poor performance, given the status they are at the minute and how well they did last year, will that potentially shake things up? I mean, is there any way that they can improve that side, given the pool of players that they have or have not got available? I very much doubt it. They literally probably going to have to either work with this team or do some extreme poaching, when you consider that right now potentially the top 8 players in Europe are all in Spain and are not going to change. Then they're going to have to potentially look to other teams to maybe mix things up. And right now, you would suggest that they've got the 4 best players available to them. So this is a worrying time if you're Steve Vortex going into this map 3, and they really do need to reset and regain. This could potentially be not just important in terms of just this qualifier, but in terms of the shape of the rest of their season.
Yeah, and obviously going from one potential upset back over to our series, Pabs, in another potential upset. Arguably, I mean, we know how good Sucre's Bakery are, but with Young Galactics at the moment, because the thing is, they've done so well that they've set the bar so high that it just feels like anything, even if it's the slightest minor thing they do wrong, it just gets like literally a floodlight shone on it, and you feel bad for them because they've just set it so high that it's almost difficult for it to go any higher, and it feels like any team that beats them now is a huge upset. So on the grander scheme of things, obviously we know the boys of Young Galactics, they'll probably be going through to that bracket still feeling fairly comfortable in their ability to be able to win the first elite series. But now the Sucre's Bakery in a really good opportunity to put themselves in that top spot here as we get ready for a Berlin Hardpoint, which will start hopefully very shortly.
Yeah, I mean, we there's phases to this, isn't there? The first handful of cups, the fun cups as such, largely regarded as an opportunity to get to grips with the game, get to grips at a competitive level. And we did see, obviously, the Young Galactics were the first team to do it, and they did it, in such a way that it looked, to all intents and purposes, like they could potentially go on to dominate the year. And I think if you were to remove maybe cups 1 through 3 and then go from that cup 4 or Cup 3 onwards, you can see then once the team started to mix things up, we did see a couple of defeats come in, but maps started to get taken off them. I would suggest going into the rest of the year, that will just get tighter and tighter. And what we saw in Cup 5, every game bar 1 was a 3-2. It went all the distance with every team, including the teams that have potentially struggled in this elite qualifier. So, as Vanguard progresses, I would suggest that it's going to get tighter even more, and that Young Galactics potentially have got to, if they want to maintain the kind of performance and kind of success they've had early doors, they're going to need to have plan Bs and plan Cs, because everyone else is going to have those in the box.
Yeah, I suppose unless there is an opportunity for Sledgehammer to maybe bring in a couple of new maps into the rotation, we're going to, like say, we've talked about it before, where team strats and abilities and kind of almost new approaches to the maps, they become slimmer and slimmer and slimmer as everything slowly starts to peter out of particular strategies, particular approaches. Obviously, we now know that Tuscan is an incredibly hard map to gain an attacking round, and already, although it's only been a little bit of time that we've seen Control, we're seeing a lot of strategies that are very, very similar in a lot of teams. There definitely seems to be a similarity in terms of approaches and nade spots, and obviously as the year progresses, those are going to become knowledge of other teams as they go through VODs and they go through scrims. So you're going to end up with literally this mismatch of different strats, but everyone kind of doing the same thing. It's almost as though everyone can, if they can try and find a spot and hold on to it and no one discovers it, then it might do you wonders further down the line.
I mean, you talk about that Tuscan B point, and that's probably the major problem right now in terms of the balance and teams not having. It's not even that they don't have a strategy, it's just that it's so limited. If you look about, if you are able to get any kind of team wipe on B, the opposite team are going to spawn over towards that backfield area, which just gives them the opportunity to run through mid, run through church, run round the back. So even if you've got a player over towards tank to watch that, it is only going to be one player, and that we've seen it time and time again. They've been dealt with, they just get pushed and traded out. And then obviously it's very quick to get a supporting player from that position, so you end up with 2 players round the back, and then obviously trying to push through mid, it just becomes really kind of a war of attrition, and it's so difficult for the attacking side. And Major, the problem is the DLC probably not going to bring us that kind of map that we want. No London Docks. It's going to be two completely different maps. One which has got the potential maybe to be a comp map, but we don't know how that's going to play out. And right now, I mean, you would suggest that if it's anywhere near got the balancing of any of the other two maps, it's still going to be a problem for the defensive team. Obviously, Tuscan is just, it's wild unless there's a huge skill disparity in the gun skill. There's literally, it's, you mean, we've just seen it. There is very little way to take that in his attacking team.
Yeah.
So it literally comes down to how can you keep that kill advantage in terms of lives, and then potentially get that defensive round in the third map. That's the strategy right now.
Yeah, and I mean, in the previous series between Flux and United Nations, I mean, the first round that the United Nations managed to take, it took a 9 streak from Jerd to stay alive on that B point to get that one done. They obviously took the third round as well, but the boys of Flux, I think at that point, it felt as though they're kind of like their heads were down. They didn't really quite have the same approach to that as the first round. So we know like how much it takes to grab that B point is just absolutely astronomical. It's very, very rarely that a team will get that point kind of lock themselves into position without either a couple of players, 1 or 2, just getting naded or shot, because the radio control from up top, people can obviously flank through top church, they can flank through that middle lane. You know, there's so many just different directions to watch that it just makes it such a hard map. But going from one map, Pabs, which is obviously one where people can kind of find it a little bit controversial, to one which I think has grown on a lot of people in Berlin. It's one that now is odd. If you don't even see one Berlin in a series, you think, hang about, how's this not work? Because it's definitely one of the more structured maps, you would say, that I think has grown on a lot of people since we first started casting it.
I mean, it's all intents and purposes, it's the closest map to a Cold War map. It's almost got Moscow vibes to an extent in terms of its size and kind of basic rotatability as such. So I think the fact that it makes sense to a lot of players in terms of how the rotations work, you know, where you can get your chunk of time if you do it well, it rewards good rotation and good play, whereas some maps can still punish players. And, you know, we expect this one to be a tight one. Young Galactics are very, very good at this map, so don't be wholeheartedly surprised if you see, you know, again, another big score like Bocage was. It wouldn't surprise me to see the 4 guys in purple go absolutely off and take this to a 2-all. And again, I'm sure, Major, it wouldn't surprise you if we end up casting over a Bocage S&D, I believe.
I'll say, if we end up with that, it's just gonna, oh man, I mean, we saw it before in the Challengers Cup when it went to that one, and it was an absolutely incredible end to the series. So we'll see if that is going to be exactly the same here, as the boys of Young Galactics going to look to try and work their way over towards the new hill. Number 7 in Rayout is going to be the lone man here just for the time being. And Yakko, again, inside the hill, soaking up the scrap time, doing the dirty job for the time being. He's got to be careful, though, Rayout, because he's being pinched. Woo! But I'll tell you what, I mean, if you want a lone man in there, he's not a bad player by any means to be in there. And these Young Galactics team, this is something that we flag up all the time, isn't it? It's one where the boys of Young Galactics, they can just leave one man in the hill and at least feel confident they'll at least grab one, if not 2.
Yeah, and I mean, I mean, if you take the old Parasite premise that you're going to do the 40-20, you're going to take 40 seconds off new and potentially leave 20 seconds to the opposition on old. Anytime they are lucky is able to get it's a bonus, and they know that they can, you know, if that rotation doesn't work, they've got the potential to cut through the opposition like butter. And again, you can see this with 8 seconds. We're already seeing the purple arrows rocking over to P3. Look at those spawns, and you know, they've taken a good chunk of time, but this game is still fairly close. We do see this in the first rotation, though, and we expect to see things maybe change up towards the latter part of this rotation as we head into the second. But right now, Young Galactics set up really nicely, and you consider the journey just looks like he's not been involved in the game at all. As I say that, he does get another kill, and he's only got himself 15 seconds, so as soon as he starts to get involved, this game could run away from the team in blue, who are getting kills across the board, but they're just not presently being able to turn the time. Of course, as I say that, they take the lead, Major.
Yeah, and Trey's going back and forth out towards the backside of the hill. You can see number 7 in Real. He's going to make a flank and potentially pick up a couple of players. He's going to manage to grab one. Eric going to manage to take one and takes 2 as well as Mr. Eric Boom. Oh, I thought he was going to grab the 3rd potentially as well. Super, though, however, in all that madness, has managed to work his way onto a 5 streak. So kind of go under the radar a little bit there as Yakko is going to look to try and transition over. You can see number 5 in Journey, though, all the way just tucked in a corner that probably most people have never even sat in Berlin. So the boys of Young Galactics now. They've got him out the back as those players look to try and transition over to help him out. And look at the spawn. Metal's going to spawn up on him, and they are going to try and hit that backside of the hill. And number one in Sukri, he will fall as well. So the break over towards the new hill is going to go in favor of Young Galactics.
And they've got number 6 ready to pick up any players in mid if he's able to play his life, and he does get another kill. So Lucky drops Yakko over towards mid. It is going to take Sukri to take him down, but you just look how much time that's taken up, and the boys from Young Galactics just swallow time. And this is what we talk about time and time again, is they get on the hill, and it's one of the reasons why oftentimes their score in terms of kills doesn't look great, because all they're doing is wiping the team that approaches them, and they don't get a lot of transitional kills because they spend so much time in the hill. And time again, this has been the case as Real goes to prove why he is regarded as the hottest young rookie in Europe right now. He's one of the players definitely to look out for. Presently, you would suggest on the struggle bus, but he is just about to potentially get himself into that positive KD. We can see a 5-streak across the board for Young Galactics as the boys from Sukri's Bakery potentially just slow down a little bit. There is about 20 seconds between the two teams as we approach the end of this first rotation, when we suggest that it will probably start to separate a little bit. But Major, Young Galactics, talk about efficiency, their ability to turn time from those minute amount of kills in comparison to how they're being slayed out is phenomenal.
Yeah, this is why we always flag up. If teams are going to come up against this Young Galactics roster, they need to come out firing. Somebody needs to be at least like 1.5 positive against some of these guys in some of these maps, because they are just so dominant. Even when they're not grabbing kills, their efficiency of getting important ones is just so good. And Eric and Super going to grab a couple of kills as we go into the remaining few seconds of this last hill, which we know can be messy, but Eric going to look to try and be a potential X factor here. Journey's going to take him down, and with 10 seconds remaining on this hill, he's going to push that lead out ever so slightly more, and the rotation is, however, going to be in the control of the boys of Sukri's Bakery. So now they really need to try and position themselves in a way that they can hold a big chunk of time. You can see a few players potentially working a bit of a pinch there. Journey and Lucky just waiting for the right time to push in. Real is also trying to bait out a few shots and a few positions of players. So there's one for Real. They take pretty much everyone in, and I'll tell you what, Babs, these lads are just absolutely textbook with breaks. They play it patiently, they push their way in, and they just chew through Sukri's Bakery.
Yeah, I was about to say this is a textbook break, but it's even worse than that. They cut through them like butter. And, at a point where you would expect Eric Boom to be like a big hill kitten for Sukri's Bakery, he's just not doing the time swallowing that he was doing in the Bocage. And right now, Young Galactics are right across the board, just swallowing time between 3 players who are approaching the 50-second mark and beyond, and 142 to 82. And we are seeing almost a replication of that first Hardpoint where they had that 100-point lead. They are edging slowly but surely to it. And again, we talk about the potential for them to take this Hardpoint, but again, we've got to look to Sukri's Bakery. They need to take good form into the S&D if it is going to go this way, but you can't write these boys off either. They just need to string together a couple of good kills, and they are back in the fight, and there is no one better to do it right now than the likes of Supi and the likes of Eric Boom. If Yakko can start picking up some time and picking up some kills, this could be turned completely on its head. But when Real is in form like that, it's just so difficult to stop, man. This team in purple can be an absolute mind-blowing performances right there, Major. I can't even form words when you've got Real and Metals dropping bodies like that.
That's the thing. Whenever we see the kill feed, it's like a couple here, a couple there for both teams. But when you look at the kills on the scoreboard, you would not think the boys of Sukri's Bakery would be 70 points behind Young Galactics as they look to try and push it out even further. So with 20 seconds on the clock of this hill, this is going to be really difficult here for Sukri's Bakery to try and hit the regain. They are going to bank over towards that P3. And number one, the man in himself, Mr. Sukri, the owner of the bakery, is going to be ready to go as a glide bomb. They're going to look to try and land it on the head, but it's just going to open the doorway for Lucky to work his way round the back, and he gets one gunfight. Journey grabs one as well, and this is looking really dangerous now for the boys in blue. I'll tell you what, Young Galactics, oh my goodness, Metals chew through 2. Lucky and Journey help mop up the pieces as well, and Young Galactics, they fly through the hill, Pablo, and this is now looking really bleak for Sukri's Bakery. They're potentially on the receiving end of a 100-point club here unless they pull their finger out.
Yeah, I mean, I would go as far as to suggest they're probably not going to get 100-point clubs, but they are pretty close. 200 over the mark for Young Galactics when they are feeling themselves. They are so on fire. And you consider as well, this has been a very kind of muted performance from Real. He hasn't put up huge figures, but what he has done is he's made himself positive and he's got great time. And that is the discipline that you expect as Metals. Bodies, plays, the shots are going to go out. And right now, Sucre's Bakery, you know, looking very ominous signs right now for the team in blue, who've done well in terms of slaying out, but they've just not been able to turn it into time. They are going to get the scrap time there, but as we hit the end of this second rotation, this is just looking very, very ominous for Sucre's Bakery. Again, you know, they've still got potentially, if they lose this, one more opportunity, but Major, this is looking like Young Galactics are on fire right now.
Oh my goodness, this is a Young Galactics hard point in a nutshell. They are literally double the points of the boys of Sucre's Bakery. They will save themselves the blushes of being in the 100-point club, but my goodness, it's going to be pretty damn near close. So 25 seconds remaining here for Sucre's Bakery to try and work some magic here. Super pistol out, going to grab one onto Metals, but they're still soaking up the time while all this madness is going on elsewhere. Number 3 Super's going to try and work his way in. They have absolutely none of it. 10 seconds remaining now on the clock. Sucre's Bakery, they have got to go quick, but Real just whipping out the pistol, absolutely cracking people left, right, and center. And with 3 seconds remaining, I don't even know if they're going to be able to touch this. Yakko flies around the corner, doesn't win the gunfight. Real with 5 in a row, and Young Galactics push it to game 5 in an emphatic style.
Mate, I think they have a conversation before the game about sore throats and like let's get Pablo and Major as hoarse as possible because these games are always so intense. Real at the end, the young phenom absolutely dropping bombs all over the map, not just in the kill. He's free roaming, insane plays, and despite the heroics of the likes of Super, who's dropped 23 and 16, it's still not enough. And you know they were so close to being a 100-point club from a game and series that we've considered to be reasonably tight, especially in terms of that trade for trade kind of kill. We're going into an S&D at 2-all from a position we kind of expected we'd be in, but 2 hardpoint maps. I mean, Young Galactics on Respawn must be awful to play. They must be horrible to play.
Yeah, so we are going to get ready for a lovely Bocage search and destroy to see us out here to determine who is going to finish top of this Elite Challengers and go through as first seed in that bracket. But I'll tell you what, Pablo, one team who won't be in that bracket is Moneyform. They lost the control, they've lost the series, and unfortunately, we will not be seeing them in that top 4 bracket. What an upset for those boys. And Revenge Tour, they take it in a 3-0 fashion.
Denza must be absolutely made up. You know, if you're ever going to talk about it, justifying, the finger right up to his old team, he has got to be absolutely flying right now because they have not just won. You know, that we would expect that maybe to go to a game 5. They have bodied Moneyform in a 3-0 right there. And again, I mean, it's sad for Steve Vortex, who as an individual has played absolutely some of the best Call of Duty that we've seen or cast over, particularly on the Sunday Cup, where he was almost impeccable at times, dropping 11 streaks, huge plays. But again, I mean, what do Moneyform need to do? I mean, can they go back to the drawing boards? Do they just continue out as the same outfit that they are? Is there actually anything they can do? And right now, Revenge Tour just looking very strong. It's not the first time that they've taken maps off them, and again, Denza is just what a move right there for them. I mean, enforced on him to an extent, but he must be absolutely made up now.
And I'll tell you what, coming back to this series, we've now got a Bocage Search and Destroy where, again, we saw this twice the last time these guys played with each other. Young Galactics, they won it in that all-important final, in that final game that they played each other in the second attempt, 6-2. But the boys of Sucre's Bakery, they took it 6-5 in that winners bracket when they knocked them down into the losers bracket. So, oh man, I mean, I'll ask you because I know you'll ask me otherwise if I don't ask you first, Pablo. With what we've seen so far, especially after that hard point, I mean, wow, that was an incredible statement from Young Galactics. Who on earth do you favour in this one? Because this could, again, another justifiable reason for either team.
Well, I mean, are we going to... This is a question. The stupid question is, are we going to see Super with a sniper on Bocage? Because we have definitely seen him do it before to great effect. So the question is he going to... If he does it, is he going to be useful with it? Is it going to be efficient? If it isn't, is he going to change it up quickly enough? They look so solid on Desert Siege S&D, but this is a completely different kettle of fish. The teams are almost on top of each other for the majority of each round, and it comes down to those kind of very quick, very accurate SMG plays. And we know the Yakko and Eric Boom are impeccable, but we also know the Young Galactics across the board are really good. So I would suggest Super is going to play really well as normal. If Sucre can get a few kills, but if Yakko and Eric Boom can really step up to the plate now, and Eric Boom can just continue the form that he's had in the previous rounds, then this could be a big one for Sucre's Bakery. But Major, we've said it before, and we've been made to eat Young Galactic words.
Yeah, Yeah, so you never count these guys out ever. We've been in so many situations where we think, oh, they might lose, and then they just come back and win the series, and then we're sat there like, right, we won't try that again. And then we have another series where, oh, they might lose, and then the exact same thing happens. So I think I've given up now, Young Galactics, regardless of how many maps they go down and what the scores are. They just always seem to be able to pull themselves out of it. And obviously with
Yeah.
a Bokar Search and Destroy, I mean, man, it's one where slim margins aren't even the words for this Search and Destroy. Obviously, the strat plays are a little bit limited for a lot of the teams and the approaches that they can take. But you flagged up Super. We've seen him use the sniper on this map, and he has managed to open a few rounds with it. So I would definitely keep an eye on him if he is rocking that and he can get consistent first bloods, or even just kind of pull his weight, because we've seen in I think a couple of the maps where he pulled it out and he struggled a little bit. They did struggle on the search, but on the maps where he got the first bloods and he was doing well with the pistol and obviously grabbing an SMG off of a body or an automaton or whatever he could find, they did tend to look pretty good on this map with a sniper, which feels so bizarre because it feels like we haven't seen that all year, and then all of a sudden we're sat in February and we're talking about snipers on Bokar.
Yeah, it's wild, man. I mean, you got to think as well, if you remember back, Super, not only with those kind of like the long range down trench down the side of the field, he was using it in relatively close quarters. He was watching across middle map from the side of hut as well. So he's not frightened to mix it up a little bit, even with the sniper. And time again, he was able to get kills. It is going to be important to get the kills early. I think they need the first 2 rounds if he's going to maintain use with the sniper. Otherwise, he's going to potentially have to just change it up and move back to an MP40. I mean, we know he can do it with it all, but yeah, huge moment for Sucre's Bakery and a good opportunity for them to do it, guys. And again, just it's going to be pretty exciting. This is to see who finishes top seed in the overall of the Elite Quals Major, and this is going to be a hell of an S&D.
Yeah, and Super. Oh my goodness. Right, here we go. Bokar Search and Destroy. And let's say with the first blood is, oh, I'll tell you what, there's a good start. Eric Boom going to drop Journey right off the rip. The trade's looking as though Metals is going to be a little bit more aggressive to try and grab it. He's not going to be able to get it on that occasion. So now, boys in purple going to look to try and work their way up the map. But now the destructible cover, the doors, there's so many opportunities for players to hear where players are. And Super sniffs one out in Metals. Real and Lucky now going to be in a 2 versus 4 situation. They've got to be careful here. They need this next pick, and Super getting some shots in. Lucky going to try and manage to get the kill. Super manages to mop him up. So now Lucky all of a sudden 1 versus 4 opening round.
Yeah, even on Bokar's, a 1v4 clutch is, again, one of these things we do not see very often. But if there is going to be one player, it's the player that we've talked about who can hold his own against 2 or 3 players. So this could be a good opportunity. It's going to be a reasonably early pick. He gave himself some time to think about what he was going to do next. He gets that kill, and it's going to be a 1v3. And with only 20 seconds remaining, he is going to get tagged up. And the problem, again, with Bokar's Major is the small geography just means that once you give yourself away, it's pretty easy just to surround that player and drop him. And it's going to be an important round for Sucre's Bakery and Major. We are starting to see almost a potential kind of confidence that we saw in Desert Siege.
Yeah. So now this is the rounds, I think, if memory serves me well, where Super would use a sniper on the attacking rounds. We did see it once, I think, once or twice on a defensive round, and he's now currently 3 in a row. So I'll tell you what, he doesn't need to pick one up as of yet. He's had a really good opening start here. And now, oh, it's like the observers can hear us. Beautiful. No sniper on this occasion. Super is just going to stick with what worked in that previous round. But again, the all-important first bloods on Bokars, they really do count in this map. And nades and tacticals being exchanged. Eric just going to try and keep his head down. And Yakko is going to progress his way up. Oh, Metals around the corner, though. And Yakko with the first blood. It's a really big kill once again from Sucre's Bakery. If they can keep this momentum going, Pablo, and keep getting first bloods, they are surely going to be putting themselves in a much better position.
And, you know, of all the people that you want on a 3 streak, it's Super. He's that little bit more cautious. He's able to do it close up and far away, so he's got the highest probable potential to get the streak. Right now, though, Yakko and Eric Boom teaming up. And again, we have this argument, you know, Sucre had a kind of very passive Desert Siege H&D, so you'd suspect if Sucre is able to go off, this could be huge. Great reactions, though. It is going to be Lucky who gets the kill on Eric Boom, so a big kill from Young Lucky there, and that's going to put them in a 3v2 position, as we do see Sucre and Eric Boom are going to hit round 3. With 29 seconds remaining, though, this is going to get pretty quick, and that's a huge kill from Journey Major on Yakko, and it's going to be Journey who gets traded out and Rail on the defuse.
Yeah, and I don't think Super's even going to try and contest this. He's just going to let him have it. So Bomb is going to get defused. Young Galactics going to post up a round on the board themselves, 1 apiece. And I'll tell you what, Pablo, it's only been 2 rounds, but the whiff is lurking. Not going to lie. We've
Yeah.
seen these guys
Yeah.
before where they've gone round 11 in this one, and it wouldn't surprise me if we get it again. But I'll tell you what, you flagged up Super 4 in a row. If he can get that 5th kill, that could potentially be a game and series deciding moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talk about if he's able to get that glide, that's going to open up
Here it
big
is.
opportunities. And there we go. And you don't want to be on the other end. Get out the way, boss.
Oi!
And he snaps Lucky in half. And again, you expect that. Don't be surprised if you see him pushing down mid with that. And don't be surprised if you see any more kills. Yako, Eric Boom, and Super drop. Everyone in Real left in
Oh
that
my
awkward
God.
position, but Sukri's Bakery. And again, mate, I wasn't even able to segue it over to you. The round was so quick.
Well, I'll tell you what, he got that all-important kill, Super, and we'll see the final one onto Real, 6-0. And the man that we picked as being a pivotal player in the Bocage search is really doing it now for Sukri's Bakery. 6 in a row for him without an answer. Young Galactics really struggling at the moment, especially Real. Still waiting his first kill, but now can Sukri's Bakery keep this momentum going? Because we've seen it before, Pablo, when Sukri's Bakery on this map, they were 5-2 up at one point in that Challengers Cup, and the boys of Young Galactics, unsurprisingly, they came back and won it 6-5, so you can't count everything just yet.
No, I mean, we did talk about them able to chain round after round together. And again, a lot of it was really just felt like Sukri's Bakery ran out of gas. Not going to happen this time. The boys in blue look very up for this. They are absolutely bobbing about. Eric Boom's flying. Yako is flying. So right now, when you've got these kind of players who are playing as well as they have done in this series, potentially with that support from Super, who's 6-0 with that 6 streak, it's going to be huge. And again, you've got to say advantage Sukri's Bakery. And they didn't let it go in that Desert Siege, and we're going to see that player, but he does not get tagged up. He has got that thick skull perk on again, mate. Eric Boom does get the first blood, and that is exactly what Sukri's Bakery needed. Is it's going to be major a 4v1. Real left there again.
Oh my goodness. Real, this is going to be a really important round here if he could potentially pinch this one, because although it's only going to be 3-1, every single round in Bocage we've seen can be so pivotal. Real still just playing his life for the time being. With 27 seconds left on the clock, this is not looking great, to be honest. It's one where I think he's just going to be trying to stay alive and not give them any more kills. They know that Super's on a streak. They surely know that he's fully streaked out now. But I just think Real is just playing damage limitation here. And it looks as though the boys of Sukri's Bakery, they are going to take this round and going back on towards another defensive round, Pablo. I'll tell you what, if Super can lock down that left-hand lane to B and potentially work a pick with the sniper, Sukri's Bakery, they are in a really good position now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a player on a 7 streak, so Sukri's Bakery going to take that lead even further out. And we've talked about it before, 3-1. At no point is this game over. We've talked about Young Galactics being able to string four rounds together, in particular on this map. But I mean, these are a team that don't get down. They're not going to be studying, not going to see them sign, or they are still going to be, full attention, 100%. Each game just gets chalked off, and they just play the next as if it's the first. So don't expect those breadsticks, as Major calls them, to last around too long. But Sukri's Bakery just looking really good. And again, that player we talked about, who's been incredibly consistent over the last year or even longer, is Super. Definitely one of the best players in Europe, if not the world. And on a 7 streak and dominating this S&D. And Yako Major with the first blood.
Super's still not died. He's gone 4 rounds on Bocage and hasn't died, and another kill comes through for Sukri now. So Metals is now the last man up. Sukri's Bakery, I tell you what, they are blowing Young Galactics out of the water here. Metals is going to have to work some magic here. 1 versus 3. Is he even going to at least tag up potentially one player? He has got a man right around the corner. Is he going to check it? No, he's not. He's going to get taken down. Sukri's Bakery with another round on the board. 4-1 up. 3 in a row. And now this is looking very bleak, Pablo, for the boys of Young Galactics.
Man, we talk about this all the time. There is nothing worse for a caster than an absolute slap, because it feels, comical to talk about the prowess of the team that are winning when you consider just how good the Young Galactics have been and it clearly are in certain times. But every now and then, this team in purple just managed to throw away the odd S&D or the odd respawn, and it's so counter to what we've seen before. But it's testament to the ability of Sukri's Bakery and testament again to their ability to assimilate information, but not just that, but to, kind of regurgitate an answer to it effectively. So, they played them in Bocage. It was very close. It was very tight. And, they allowed them to take 4 rounds off them. And now look at them. It's like they've taken on board all that information and found cohesive strategies. So maybe hats off to the big brains. It's going to be a trade straight out to Suki, able to drop Real. That's going to be a big kill in the scheme of things. Real's been playing reasonably well so far in comparison to how the other players are doing. So it is going to be right now advantage Young Galactics as we do see Super and Yakko drop. That's a big kill in terms of Super's ability, and it's going to be Suki in a 1v2 right now. And this is a potentially nosebleed area for the young Spaniard. But again, Major, this has been a wild performance so far. I wouldn't put it past the Clutch.
Oh my! Oh no!
No!
Okay. Oh god! I mean, they did well to finally kill Super. He went so many rounds without dying. They finally drop him, and they actually take the round to show for it. So it got a little bit worrying there. As Journey, just over half health, is going to jump off the top and mop up that final kill. But now Sucre's Bakery, that 3-round cushion, apologies, has now dropped down to 2. So we'll see what their approach is on this next defensive round. So again, an important moment there for Young Galactics, but a notable moment, Pablo. They actually got a first blood, and obviously that's really helped them in that round.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, in most of the kind of larger S&D maps, the first blood's vital, but you usually will look to see teams get 2 picks before they plant bomb. But obviously, the first blood in this is a game changer because you've got so much more geography to work with because the map is so small. So, crazy plays from Young Galactics, and again, worrying signs that, they did this at the weekend, and potentially this could be another moment. Eric Boone with important first, and he dips as well. And we see Journey struggle in the window. He gets the kill, though, on Eric Boone, and he looks to get the shot straight out to top grannies, and there is no one there. But he makes that a 3v3, and that's going to be an important kill in the scheme of this game, as Super is going to be kind of dodging around this A-bomb site. And Major, again, we're looking to see a crazy performance. Has Journey a little bit of information going through the site as Real looks to set himself up for the push towards that bomb site.
Oh my goodness, it's going to get messy. Yakko's in, the nades are in as well, and Yakko takes Journey off the bomb. There's going to be another man nearby. Real able to trade him out, but Sucre is 2 as well. So now Lucky 1 versus 2 in another important round. Lucky, can he work some magic? Spots one man out the back. Oh, but Sucre snaps onto him, and he manages to fry him. Sucre's Bakery now in the position we saw last time. 5-2 up again, Pablo. You cannot call it just yet because the boys of Young Galactics, they've been in this position before, and they've still managed to clutch up.
I'm calling it, mate. I'm calling it now. Eric Boom is going to get the ace, and I see Sucre's Bakery to the top of the board now. You just can't do it, man. Young Galactics is so good. And I said at the start, look at those breadsticks. They won't be the same by the end of the round. And do not write these boys in purple off. They are capable of anything. And that includes a 4-round comeback. So right now, it is advantage Sucre's Bakery, and what a big advantage it is. But they have been here before and thrown it away, Major. So big moments right now. It's going to take some big cojones to do it.
Oh my goodness. Messy already. Journey grabs one before he does entirely fall. And Lucky, sniper out just watching through the tunnel. This is something we've not seen. So a little bit of a wild card here from Lucky. Is he going to check the right corner? Yes, he is, and the pistol does the work for him. So now Sucre is now the last man up. 1 versus 3 is required. They're on the hunt for him. I think they've got eyes on him. He's doing his best to try and get away, but he can't manage to do it. The purple arrows hunt him down, and that's the first round, Pablo.
Whoa.
Still 3 more to go.
The slide begins. Oh man, you can't say it, man. Suki's Bakery have got enough in the tank, just compose themselves, and they'll be able to see this out. But man, we've seen it before, and you guys who missed Cup 5, you could be in for an absolute treat if Young Galactics are able to pull off what they did at the weekend. Right now you would suggest Suki's Bakery were in the driving seat, but again, the kills have fallen off, their strategies fell off. Right now, Young Galactics, you can see that aggression coming out of them. This is going to be a monumental round, you would suggest now, Major.
Oh, my goodness. Right. Okay, deep breath. First blood. That's what you're thinking if you're Young Galactics, probably. They're just looking for something to work with. Sucre going to be keeping an eye over this beast site. And Real and the boys in purple, they are just playing this oh so patiently. They know they have got no more margin for error now in this series. And they are not budging an inch at the moment. They are slowly edging their way over towards this A-bomb site. The door is now open. Journey just toying with the idea of potentially entering in towards kitchen. But now nades out. They're waiting to see what they can tag up. He does manage to tag one up lucky there, and he's going to back, I believe, what was potentially Yakko, but the shots come through. Eric knows there's one there. Can't manage to get the first blood, though. Already nades and bullets being extended. But Real, first blood, manages to get it. They're going to try and fly in here, but Metals grabs Super as well. So now Eric Boom replies with one as it starts to get messy, and Sukri, all of a sudden, all his mates are gone. He's the last man up, and Young Galactics take another round.
Oh my days, we are one away from tying this up, and you said it earlier on, the whiff is strong. We are potentially heading to a round 11. What is going on with Sukri's Bakery? Where is the discipline? Where is the composure? The nerves have got to them. The hands are sweaty. They need to get their gamer grip out and refocus right now, because Young Galactics are about to do a repeat of what they did on Sunday. And right now, we said at the start, those stats will not stay the same, and it is almost uniform across the board. And Major, more importantly, with, you know, potentially 2 rounds to go, they have got a 5 streak between them. So Metals potentially off an all-important glide if he's able to get a 2-piece.
Oh, Journey got the first blood. The nade drops Eric. Oh my goodness, Sukri's Bakery, don't you dare do this to us again after what you did to us in the cup. This will be absolutely ridiculous. The stun comes through, but Super replies with one. Real grabs a kill onto Yakko as well, and it's now a 2 versus 3. The bomb is down. Super, can he work some magic? Metals grabs one. They're hunting for the last man, and it's going to be Super. Can he do it? No, he can't. He will drop, and oh my goodness, Metals is 1 away from a glide bomb, but more importantly, Pablo, they get the defuse, they get the round. We are going to round 11.
Again, it's insane to think that we've been here once before. Sukri's Bakery, how have they allowed this to happen? We'll tell you how. Young Galactics, you cannot give up on them. Don't bet against them. Never side against them, because they are capable of the impossible. And they've done it again when it matters, when it needs to get the top seed, when they want the bragging rights in Spain. The Young Galactics have pushed it all the way, and they've got Metals on a 4 right now. You know, if he gets a pick, potentially, if they get left in a clutch situation, that could be hugely important. But, you know, potentially don't even have to rely on it, because they have got the confidence and the ascendancy right now.
Oh my goodness. Right. Oh, wow. This is a bold play. Oh, my goodness. That was such a bold play. And it's gone completely Pete Tong as Journey grabs the first blood. They're looking for more, though. Rael grabs Yakko. Oh, my goodness. The collapse is now occurring. Super's going to grab a kill, though. So it will at least steady the ship for now. But where is this next kill going to lie? Sukri, there's so many players near him. Oh, my goodness. Rael's dead. Well, there's one. There's still 2 players lurking as well inside. The bomb goes down. Where is the next kill? Oh, my goodness. Super's tagging up players. He needs some help, though, from Sukri. But Lucky's going to get a sniper kill. So now it's all on Super. Pistol out. He can't do it. Young Galactics get the win. And oh, my goodness. You cannot write these boys off. They take it in Game 5 in round 11 from 5-2 down.
Tear up the betting slips, tear up whatever you thought about this team, because they can do it time and time again. When you look at that Desert Seed 6-1, you're thinking, wow, Sukri's Bakery have got this tied up. Well, I'm afraid not. Young Galactics decide, we'll just come back 4 rounds on the bounce. We saw it Sunday, we said it today. They are unstoppable. And, you know, when you think about what's happened, what a crazy set of games that we've witnessed today, man, can anyone stop this Spanish dynasty right now?
Oh, my goodness. Well, after Sunday, to be honest, that does not shock me at all. Young Galactics, they just have a knack on Bocage, Search and Destroy. And it feels like, especially against the boys of Sukri's Bakery, to just pull something out of the bag when you least expect it. They had so much going for them in that Search and Destroy Sukri's Bakery. They just weren't able to get one final round. And Young Galactics, wow, composure at its finest, Pablo. Those boys, they just managed to cause the almighty upset, and they will top the group here in the Elite Challengers round robin. I mean, wow. I mean, we've just run out of words for these boys at this point.
Mate, we've had to buy new thesauruses, we've had to consult other languages just to try and find the metaphors to describe them. You know, ultimately, at the end of the day, probably a result in terms of who wins that we may have expected, but not in the fashion they did it. You know, dropping that Desert Siege, we thought, my day 6-1, to get so utterly annihilated and then get turned around on probably their strongest map, which is Tuscan Control. And then we saw this great respawn team. We know how good they are, but then to come back again, like they go through that gear, they have that plan C, and to come back and win 6-5 is insane. When you see what's gone down today, this is why we love Call of Duty. The absolute results that have happened today in the fashion that they've happened, and it's endless. Saturday we've got Cup 5, Sunday we've got Cup 5, so yesterday we've got League Quals, today we've got this craziness. Mate, Call of Duty is life, man. Really
man.
is.
COD is life. I'm going to get the shirt for the next stream and just have it stamped on my chest because, oh my goodness, what an incredible evening of Call of Duty once again. So, guys, our top 4 teams, they are now finally confirmed. Young Galactics, they are going to be second in the group. Sucre's Bakery going to pick them right to that top spot. But Revenge Tour and the Originals are going to be the other remaining 2 battling it out for that $50,000 prize pool, which will be going on next Tuesday and Wednesday next week. But this evening, there is going to still be some more Call of Duty action. We have the America of the North, NA, they're still going to be going. They're still going to be trying to work their way into those top 4. So make sure you hit subscribe, get that notification bell hit as well, because we'll have more Call of Duty this evening. But that is going to be it from myself and Pabs this evening. I think it's safe to say Europe once again has provided. And thank you everyone for dropping in and tuning for this one, because it's been an absolutely incredible evening of Call of Duty. But that will be it from us, guys. Make sure you drop back later for NA, if not next week for the remainder of Europe. Thanks again, guys, and we will catch you all next time.